The 12th year of my adoption by the Hua family, the real heiress has returned. Learning of her miserable life all these years, my parents began to resent me. They planned to have me move out of the Hua residence, but my brother intervened just in time. 4 years later, Hua Sun chose to marry me. Little did I know, he did it only to torment me. Enin has suffered for so many years. Hua Shiyuan, you must spend the rest of your life atoning for your sins. In the 3rd year of our marriage, we had a massive, explosive fight. In a fit of rage, Hua Sun abandoned me on the highway, which led to my death in a multi-car pileup. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in an orphanage. Once more, I saw that young couple. I froze in place, until a little girl next to me pinched her nose in disgust and cried out, "Headmistress, Lin Shiyuan wet her pants. That's so gross." Yes, I wet my pants. As a damp patch spread from the leg of my trousers, the other children gathered around, watching the spectacle and giggling behind their hands. The startled cry quickly drew the attention of the dean and the well-dressed young couple. The dorm matron hurried over, frowning at me. "Lin Shiyuan, what's going on here?" I lowered my head without a word. They had no choice but to rush me back to the dorm to change. Once I was changed, I said in a small voice, "Auntie Lee, I'm not feeling very well. My stomach hurts a bit. Do I have to go down?" The dorm supervisor furrowed her brow. "That man is the heir to the Hua group. He might choose one of you to be his daughter today. Everyone must be present. Be good and come downstairs with me." Back in the main hall, all the children were already lined up in a row, accompanied by the head of the institution, Mr. and Mrs. Hua Chen looked over the children of varying heights. Walking beside the couple was a little boy in a black shirt, his eyes and brows radiating a rebellious air. This was Hua Sun. "Hey there, what happened to your hand?" Mrs. Hua, who had been my mother in my past life, stopped in front of me just as she had before. I pulled back my sleeve, and a stream of blood flowed from my nose. I did this on purpose just now, banging my hand on the railing on the way downstairs. "What happened? Your nose is bleeding," the other person asked with concern. I shook my head. "I don't know, it just happens to me a lot." The girl from earlier said enthusiastically to the woman, "Auntie, she's the one who just wet herself." Upon hearing this, Mrs. Hua looked at me with a touch of pity. Hua Sun was standing right beside her. His gaze swept over me briefly and indifferently before moving away just as coolly. He was only 8 years old this year, yet his features were already strikingly clear and handsome. An air of noble, refined aloofness emanated from his entire being. He seemed to exist on a completely different plane from us grubby, ordinary children. Finally, the Hua family chose another girl about my age. Her name was Xing. It was clear she was overjoyed and brimming with excitement, yet a trace of nervousness lingered. Her gaze was fixed intently on this group of family who had seemingly appeared out of thin air, a beautiful and elegant mother, an extraordinary father, and a cool, handsome older brother. The little girl's eyes were filled with dreams of the future, just like my past self, too. In my past life, I was the little girl adopted by the Hua family. At that time, it had been exactly 1 year since the real heiress of the Hua family, Hua Yin, had gone missing. Madame Hua, sick with longing for her daughter, spent her days weeping. The Hua family consulted a master, who divined that Hua Yin was still alive. The master advised Mrs. Hua that excessive worry and brooding were inadvisable, as it could easily lead to a surge of vital energy and blood to the heart, causing stagnation in the chest. Furthermore, weeping all day long would cause significant damage to the eyes. If they could adopt a young girl and treat her well, it might perhaps bring blessings and good fortune for the true Hua family heiress. The Hua family took the advice to heart. They promptly went to an orphanage and adopted a little girl around the same age as their own daughter. That girl was me. Then, they raised the other with the utmost care and devotion, as if they were a precious treasure. Perhaps good fortune had truly arrived. It just arrived a bit late. I waited all the way until the 12th year after I was adopted by the Hua family, which was the year I turned 18, when Hua Yin finally returned. One can only imagine the sheer joy that swept through the entire Hua household. Mrs. Hua held her long-lost daughter in her arms, weeping uncontrollably with overwhelming, tearful joy. However, the mood shattered when they learned of Hua Yin's past. She had dropped out of school at 14, been deceived and heartbroken at 15, given birth at 16, and had a kidney removed while working a migrant job at 17. Madame Hua was utterly stunned. Immediately after, the entire Hua household was plunged into profound grief once more. They could never have imagined that the sweet, cherished little princess from 13 years ago would be reduced to such a broken state. After all, her life had only just begun. Then their gaze turned to me, the adopted daughter. I was practically the same age as Huayin, yet I was so healthy, vivacious, radiant, and poised. Thanks to the Hua family's affluent circumstances, I learned to play the piano, dance, fence, and skate. I'm fluent in 4 languages and excelled academically. As soon as I finish my final year of high school, I will be heading to Brown University in the UK to study. All of this cut my adoptive parents to the quick. Their biological daughter was out there suffering hardships and torment, while their adopted daughter was living a charmed life at home, enjoying every advantage. After some thought, Mrs. Hua came to me and flatly stated they would no longer fund my studies abroad. Not only that, but they also wanted me to move out of the Hua family as soon as possible. My presence had been making Huayin unhappy ever since she returned home. Despite my deep attachment to the family, I agreed with what my mother said. Huayin's misfortune wasn't my fault, but I couldn't help feeling guilty whenever I faced her. It was truly because of her that I came to the Hua family. It was also because of her that I enjoyed 12 carefree years. Now, the true young mistress of the Hua family has returned. No matter what, I have no reason to stay here any longer. However, in the 3rd month after I moved out of the Hua family home, Hua's son, who was studying in the UK at the time, rushed back to the country and, with a very firm attitude, brought me back. He then did everything he could to persuade my adoptive parents to let me stay with the Hua family. Seeing his son so determined, Mr. Hua finally relented and agreed to let me stay. I don't understand why Hua's son is doing this. I thought it was because he cherished the bond we'd shared since childhood and couldn't bear to see me cast out by the Hua family. Even though I've repeatedly insisted that I want to move out of my own volition, not because my parents ordered it, but Hua's son simply won't agree to let me go. In the end, due to his strenuous objections, I remained with the Hua family. Back then, I had no idea that this very decision would lead to a tragic end for our relationship. 3. After the Hua family left the orphanage, I breathed a sigh of relief. In this life, I want nothing more to do with that family. When I think about it, staying at the orphanage isn't so bad. Although my body is only 6 years old, my mind is that of a 25-year-old adult. I know the basics of how to survive. It would go a long way in preventing others from bullying me. Besides, I had excellent grades in my previous life. Studying was never really a challenge for me. Once I got to middle and high school, I could start tutoring or picking up part-time jobs. I can support myself and work my way through college, so graduating won't be a problem. Thinking about it that way, I'm not too worried about the future anymore. I was also prepared to live at the orphanage long term. I just never expected that. 2 weeks later, 3 unexpected visitors would arrive at the orphanage. 4. Early Saturday morning, the dorm matron urgently summoned all the children to gather in the common room. In situations like this, it usually meant a prospective adoptive family was coming. Just as I thought, before long, matron accompanied a young couple into the lounge. A group of children stood ramrod straight. Everyone looked toward the exceptionally attractive couple at the door with eager anticipation. Everyone hopes to be the next lucky one after Xing. Only I was slightly taken aback after getting a clear look at the young couple's faces. What are they doing here? Don't tell me. The next instant, I saw a familiar face. Ji Dongya, 5. My mind went blank for a moment. Memories from my past life came flooding back to me unbidden. Not long after the Hua family adopted me, a few young boys from the neighborhood spotted me while I was out. When they found out I was Hua's son's new little sister, they were all intrigued. Then they swarmed around me, each one asking if I wanted to come be a sister in their family instead. Ji Dongya was one of them. Naturally, I paid them no mind. The group of boys was quite dismayed. Ji Dongya, in particular, was visibly crestfallen. I heard that as soon as he got home, he pestered his parents relentlessly, insisting that he had to have a little sister too. His parents, worn down by his badgering, had no choice but to go to the orphanage where I used to live, hoping to adopt a little sister for Ji Dongya as well. But for some reason, it didn't work out in the end. Thinking of this now, I see what's going on now. In this life, Ji Dongya must have seen Xing in the neighborhood, so he pestered his parents again and came here to get them to adopt a little sister for him. 6. The Ji family's attempt to adopt me back then didn't work out, so I quietly took my place in the farthest corner. I never would have imagined. I saw Ji Dongya again, just as he was when we were children. In my past life, I wouldn't say I was close to him. However, since we lived in the same gated community and Ji Dongya was classmates with Hua's son, I suppose you could say we were acquainted. One thing I remember quite clearly is that during my senior year of high school, Huayin was brought back to the Hua family. The Hua family had originally planned to send me to study in the UK after I graduated from high school. Hui Yin's return prompted the family to change their minds. Knowing my place, I naturally decided to apply to a university in City A. Unexpectedly, Ji Dongye, who was studying at a university in the UK at the same time as Hwasun, learned of my situation and called me specifically to offer to cover my tuition and living expenses abroad. I was completely baffled. After all, we weren't that close, and studying abroad is a significant expense. I didn't dare to owe anyone another favor, so I firmly turned him down. To my surprise, a few days later, he actually flew back home just to try and persuade me again. I still didn't agree, but I thanked him sincerely. So, in my mind, Ji Dongye stood out as one of the rare, genuinely kind-hearted individuals among that crowd of rich kids. 7. Just as my thoughts began to drift and wander, a voice, still tinged with childishness, reached my ears. "Huh, what's your name?" I looked up. I stared blankly at the boy before me, with his dashing eyebrows and bright, star-like eyes, who wasn't much taller than I was. After a long moment, "Lin Shiyuan," I replied. Ji Dongye's lips curved into a smile, beaming at me. Then, as if he'd stumbled upon a treasure, he called out cheerfully to Madam Ji behind him, "Mom, I want this little sister." 8. What happened next was quite unexpected. I was adopted by the Ji family. As the car pulled into the Villa district, a place I knew all too well, my mind was still in a complete daze. How strange. In my past life, the Ji family did go to the orphanage, but in the end, they really didn't succeed in adopting anyone. Ji Dongye never had a sister, either. Why is there a discrepancy this time? Could it be that because I altered the course of events, the lives of others have also shifted accordingly? Is that really it? What do you think of this room? It has a balcony with a view of the lake. If you don't like this one, you can check out my room. It's a bit bigger and has a balcony. If you like it, it's yours. Ji Dongye was incredibly warm and welcoming, so much so that I was completely taken aback by his kindness. Just how badly did this guy want a little sister? I certainly didn't dare to take over his room, so I quickly said this one was just fine. Are you hungry? I can take you out to get something to eat. There's a night market over there with lots of good food. I shook my head. Ji Dongye wasn't ready to give up. His pair of dark, gleaming eyes darted around thoughtfully. Do you want to play a video game, or maybe work on a puzzle? I can show you how. I never would have imagined. Who would have thought that Ji Dongye was such a chatterbox when he was little? It's hard to refuse such a warm invitation. Just as I was wondering whether I should agree to him, Sharia, let Yuan get some proper rest. She has to adapt to her new school environment tomorrow. Madam Ji walked over and cut him off at just the right moment. Ji Dongye was reluctant to leave, glancing back repeatedly. When he reached the door, he remembered something and said to me, "Get some good rest. I'll come wake you up in the morning." After Ji Dongye left, Mrs. Ji took my hand and led me to the wardrobe, showing me where the towels and pajamas were kept. Perhaps worried I couldn't read yet, she then took me to the bathroom to point out which bottle was body wash and which was shampoo. Yuan. From now on, please think of this place as your own home, treat Ji Dongye as your older brother, and think of me and Uncle Ji as your mom and dad. Alright, of course, if you're not comfortable calling us mom and dad, you can just call us Uncle Ji and Auntie Ji. That's perfectly fine too. Perhaps it's because I'm already 25 in my mind. I simply couldn't bring myself to call a woman just a few years older than me mom. For a moment, I was at a loss for words. Madam Ji didn't mind at all. Instead, she crouched down, gently touched my cheek, and smiled. "It's perfectly fine if you can't call me that yet. How about we take a bath first, get to bed early, and go see your new school tomorrow?" In that moment, she didn't feel like a mother. Instead, she was like a gentle, loving older sister, who miraculously soothed the quiet unease deep within me. 9. The next day, Mrs. G took me to register at the new school. This was also the alma mater from my previous life. On the first day of school, I ran into Shenxing in the hallway. We were both in first grade, and her classroom was right next to mine. Shenxing was quite surprised to see me. "Lin Shiyuan, is that really you? What are you doing here?" I had no choice but to tell her that I had been adopted by the Ji family and was now also living at No. 1 mansion. Shenxing was delighted. "Really, that's wonderful. Does this mean we can play together from now on?" Upon hearing this, I instinctively fell silent and did not answer her right away. After all, at this moment, I really didn't want to have anything to do with the Hua family. Just then, Shenxing seemed to spot something. Waving with delight, she called out loudly, "Brother." I turned my head, and then, there was Hwasun, who was only 8 years old. Shenxing excitedly took a few steps forward, grabbed Hwasun's sleeve, and was absolutely thrilled. "Oh, By the way, Lin Shiyuan, I've changed my name, I'm Huixing now. This is my brother, Huasun, you two should get acquainted. Huasun looked at me and gave an almost imperceptible nod. It was a stark contrast to Shenxing's warm and friendly demeanor. It seemed his personality had always been this way. With people he wasn't familiar with, he always maintained an aloof, indifferent, and distant air. In my past life, when I was first adopted by the Hua family, he almost never spoke to me on his own. For a time, I thought he really disliked me. It wasn't until much later, after a long time had passed, that we gradually became familiar with each other. Brother. This is my friend from the orphanage, Lin Shiyuan. By the way, Lin Shiyuan, have you changed your name? Changed my name? I paused for a moment, then shook my head. Not yet. In my past life, after being adopted by the Hua family, I did change my name. It was Hua Shiyuan. That name stayed with me until I was 18. That was until Huayin returned to the Hua family. Upon hearing my name was Hua Shiyuan and that I called Mr. and Mrs. Hua mom and dad, Huayin flew into a rage. Calling me shameless and disgraceful, she accused me of stealing her parents and her brother. Soon after, Mrs. Hua came to me and asked that I simply call her auntie. I immediately understood what she meant. From then on, I started calling Mrs. Hua auntie and Mr. Hua uncle. I even stopped calling Hua son brother. The Hua family also quickly helped me change my name back to my original one, Lin Shiyuan. After this series of actions, Huayin finally settled down considerably. 10. Lin Shiyuan. What's the surname of the family that adopted you? Maybe my brother knows them. Could I come over to your place to play sometime? Xing. Oh, wait, that's not right. Huixing was still chattering away over there. To be honest, I'm starting to feel like leaving. This girl has a rather blunt and straightforward personality. She hasn't caught on yet that Huasun and I have absolutely no interest in socializing with each other. Are we that close? Why should I let you come over to my house? A somewhat cold child's voice cut in. I turned to look in the direction of the voice. It's Ji Dongya. Huixing looked a bit stunned to see someone suddenly appear beside me. And this is? She asked instinctively. I paused for a moment before replying. This is my brother, Ji Dongya. Huixing's eyes widened instantly, staring straight at him. What are you doing here? Ji Dongya was asking me. I wasn't doing anything, I whispered. Don't just chat with strangers, you don't even know them, come on. I'll walk you back to the classroom. Huixing was, after all, just a young girl, and she looked rather embarrassed. Huasun glanced at Ji Dongya but remained silent the entire time. Back to the classroom. Is anyone in class bullying you? If so, tell me, Ji Dongya said to me earnestly. Despite his youthful, almost childlike face, his words carried a weight and seriousness beyond his years. I couldn't help but smile. Even though my body is that of a 6-year-old child, my mind is that of a 25-year-old adult. Looking around the entire elementary school, there probably aren't many who could push me around. Nevertheless, I obediently agreed to Ji Dongya's request. Okay, 11. And just like that, I was adopted by the Ji family. Mrs. Ji didn't ask me to change my name. Instead, she told me, Lin Shiyuan actually sounds a bit nicer than Ji Shiyuan. There's no need to change it, perhaps sensing my hesitation and timidity. She even suggested I call her Auntie Ji and refer to Ji Dongya's father as Uncle Ji. Deep down, I knew the main reason the Ji family adopted me was largely to fulfill Ji Dongya's wish for a little sister. Sometimes I find it truly unbelievable. I can't believe some parents would spoil their child to this extent. To give their son a playmate, they went and adopted a daughter from an orphanage, just as I thought. The more affluent the family, the less its children lack for love. I stopped dwelling on why the Ji family's choices in this life differed from my last. Instead, I chalked it up to the butterfly effect. I didn't want to be adopted by the Hua family. The Hua family was determined to adopt a little girl. Just as I expected, if they didn't adopt me, they would adopt another girl. In her past life, Huiyin's fate was, in a way, sealed. As for this life, 12. Not long after I was adopted by the Ji family, a major incident occurred at the No. 1 mansion. The little girl from the Hua family, who was abducted by her nanny and had been missing for nearly a year, has been found. It's true, Huiyin is back. The whole neighborhood is buzzing. The Hua family was absolutely over the moon with joy. I heard that Mrs. Hua not only made a hefty donation to that fortune teller from before, she's also throwing a 3-day-long party at the villa to celebrate. Auntie Ji received an invitation to the party as well. When you live in the same gated community and a neighbor has a major celebration, it's only right and proper to offer your congratulations. Aunt Ji asked me and Ji Dongya if we were going. thinking back to my past life. My relationship with Huayin was never really that great. Ever since I married Huasun, she's practically treated me like an enemy. As for her, any trace of the initial guilt and unease I felt had long since vanished, leaving behind nothing but cold indifference. There was no way I was going, so I shook my head decisively. Ji Dongye was equally unenthusiastic. What's the point of going? I'd rather stay home and play chess with Yuan Yuan. Yet, the two families lived so close to each other. Even if I wanted to hide, there was no way I could avoid it. A week later, I saw Huayin at school. Huayin, who was only 6 years old. Wearing a dark blue school uniform, she walked alongside Huasun, perhaps due to being trafficked and living in the countryside for a year. She looked somewhat tanned and a bit thin. She was about the same height as me. Her facial features bore a striking resemblance to Hua's mother. She had a broad forehead, deep-set eyes and brows, and a pair of dark, luminous eyes. She was, without a doubt, a pretty little girl. It seemed her shoelace had come undone. Huayin glanced down, then pouted and looked up at her brother with a pleading, coquettish expression. Huasun, who was always aloof, proud, and kept others at a distance, seeing this, he immediately knelt down without hesitation to tie his little sister's shoelaces. He then stood up and affectionately patted her little head. This gentle and amiable side of Huasun was something only I, having grown up with him, could truly appreciate as rare. It was probably only in front of his own sister that Huasun would show such a gentle and affectionate side. The siblings had always been very close. In her previous life, Huayin returned home at the age of 18. He learned that his sister had dropped out of school at 14, given birth at 16, and had a kidney removed at 17. The agony in Huasun's eyes was scorching him from the inside out. He couldn't bear to see his sister's life reduced to this. He couldn't stomach the fact that I, the one adopted into the Hua family, was the one living a healthy, glamorous life. To get back at me, he even went so far as to marry me. He got what he wanted. The 3 years I was married to him were the most painful of my life. It started with him giving me the silent treatment and ignoring me, then it slowly escalated to him tormenting and humiliating me. He grabbed me by the throat, screaming hysterically. Why wasn't I the one who was trafficked to the countryside? Why wasn't I the one who had a kidney cut out? Why do I have to live the life meant for his sister, Huayin? That marriage came to an abrupt end with my death. The moment I was sent flying by the truck, I was acutely aware that I felt no pain. Instead, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. What a relief. I'm finally square with the Hua family. We're even. If there is a next life, I will never, ever let the Hua family adopt me again. 13. That might just prove the saying true. The person you least want to see is the one who always shows up. Huayin actually transferred into my class. This is something I never anticipated. I guess there really is some twisted fate between her and me. Thankfully, there were over 40 students in the class. If I didn't want to interact with her, we'd hardly have a reason to speak. I could just treat her like a stranger and keep it that way until graduation. That would work just fine. But that fantasy of mine was quickly shattered. It all started during a break between classes. While in the restroom, I accidentally heard panicked cries for help coming from the stall at the very end. Only when I walked over did I notice that the door had been barred from the outside with a wooden stick. After moving the wooden stick aside, I discovered, to my shock, that the person trapped inside was Huaxing. Huaxing, who locked you in here? He averted his gaze, shaking his head so vigorously it was like a rattle drum, and no one. After that, this happened a couple of times. I asked Huaxing about it, but she refused to say a word each time. Then one day, at 8:30 in the evening, on my way back from the supermarket at the entrance of our complex, I came across Huaxing. She was huddled alone by the flower bed in the greenbelt, dressed in thin clothes, quietly sobbing. At that moment, I finally understood who had been bullying her all this time. Did Huayin throw you out? Seeing me, Huaxing scrambled to her feet and hurriedly wiped away her tears. She seemed ready to deny it again. That's not it. Then why are you crouching here all alone instead of going home? Huaxing stammered, clearly unable to come up with an excuse. A light rain began to fall, and she was dressed too lightly for the weather. After a moment's hesitation, I took out my smartwatch. Ji Dongye, would it be alright if I had a classmate over for a bit? There was a slight pause on the other end. Where are you? 5 minutes later, Ji Dongye came out with an umbrella to meet me. Huaxing followed us timidly to the Ji residence. Upon learning she hadn't had dinner, Ji Dongye asked Auntie Jean to make her a bowl of noodles. Did Huayin throw you out? I asked Huaxing again. This time, she didn't deny it, just lowered her head in silence. As I got closer, I noticed the marks on her wrist where she'd been grabbed. did you two get into a fight? Huixing instinctively covered the spot with his sleeve and shook his head. Ji Dongya, standing nearby, snorted lightly and said, she wouldn't dare lay a finger on that little hellion. It was more like a one-sided beating. Little witch, who are you calling a little witch? Who else? Huiyin, of course. Ji Dongya said Huiyin had been notoriously mischievous since childhood, well known throughout the entire neighborhood. So everyone gave her a nickname. They called her Little Witch. Seeing my disbelief, Ji Dongya then showed me a faint scar on his forehead. He said it was the winter before last, when he had a snowball fight with a few kids from the neighborhood. A snowball accidentally hit Huiyin on the shoulder. Even though everyone was bundled up in thick down jackets, it couldn't have hurt that much. But that little girl flew into a rage. She grabbed a sharp rock and charged at him like a leopard, whacking him right on the head. I stood frozen in place. In my previous life, Huiyin was brought back to the Hua family. Her temperament was extreme and perverse, and she frequently threw tantrums at home. Mrs. Hua would often weep in front of me, reminiscing about how sweet and obedient Huiyin was as a child. If she had grown up properly in the Hua family, she would have been the most sensible and accomplished young woman. However, the Huiyin described by Ji Dongya seemed like a completely different person from the soft, sweet, and lovely little girl Mrs. Hua spoke of. Was that all just a mother's biased perspective? Huixing finished his noodles. I comforted her for a little while longer. The doorbell suddenly rang. Uncle Ji isn't home lately. He's gone abroad for business negotiations. Aunt Ji went to a close friend's full moon banquet today and said she'd be back late. Naturally, I assumed it was Aunt Ji coming back, but when I opened the door, I was met with an unexpected face. The corners of my mouth abruptly turned down. Excuse me, Huixing. Perhaps it was my expression, which had suddenly turned icy. Huisun's words also came to an abrupt halt. He looked at me with confusion. We locked eyes for a few seconds. Realizing I was being a bit rude, my expression softened and I stepped aside. Huixing, your brother is here. Hearing this, Huixing quickly scrambled to her feet and scurried over, calling out in a pitiful, aggrieved tone, brother. Huisun looked at her and let out a soft sigh. I've already scolded Huiyin. Don't be angry. Come on, let's go back with me. Huixing sniffled and obediently followed behind. After a couple of steps, he remembered something, turned around, and gave me a wave. Shiyuan, thank you for tonight. I'm heading home now. I was just about to close the door. My gaze met Huisun's. He was looking right at me, his eyes filled with scrutiny and appraisal. Bang, I shut the door without a moment's hesitation. 14. I'm starting to wonder if I made a mistake. That's right, the reason Huiyin was able to return to the Hua family so quickly is because I once sent an anonymous text message to her father. In her past life, the news even covered the story when Huiyin was brought back to the Hua family. The remote mountain village where she was trafficked to was notoriously known as a hub for human traffickers. It said that several female university students were trafficked there and forced to bear children. Although my interactions with Huiyin in that past life were far from pleasant, but if a simple effort on my part could change the lives of those girls, I would do it without hesitation. I just never expected that my action would alter Huixing's life. Originally, she should have grown up safely in the Hua family until 18, just like I did in my past life, but now, with Huiyin's early return, her situation was bound to become much more difficult. 15. My hunch was correct. After that day, Huixing would periodically be kicked out of the house by Huiyin. Several times, even as late as 9:30, I'd still see her sitting all alone by the flower bed. Sometimes, it was Huisun who came out to find her. Other times, it was me who took her back to the Ji family home, and after I had helped Huixing a few times, Huiyin had also successfully turned her sights on me. On yet another rainy evening, I found Huixing shivering on a bench. I had no choice but to drag her back with me. Unexpectedly, we were spotted by Huiyin, who appeared out of nowhere. She glared at Huixing, her young face a mask of fury. So that's it. I was wondering how you always got off scot-free. You had help all along. I stared at her coldly. It's raining, can't you see? So what? She ruined my painting. She deserves to be punished. Huixing shook his head frantically. I didn't break it. You're the one who tore it. So what? If I say you broke it, then you broke it. Huiyin's face was a picture of petulance, her spoiled young mistress attitude on full display. Her eyes swept over me, sizing me up twice. I heard you two came from the same orphanage. Figures. You both give off the same stench. With that, she theatrically fanned her nose in disgust. Once again, I recalled the adjective Mrs. Hu used to describe Huiyin as a child, soft and squishy, sweet and adorable. Well, that's an eye-opener. Talk about seeing your child through rose-colored glasses. I don't cut her any slack at all. I heard you were trafficked to the countryside for a year. Took quite a beating, didn't you? Don't tell me you were living in a cowshed. I can smell it on you from a mile away. Hui Yin's expression changed instantly. And she practically jumped to her feet. What did you just say? Didn't you hear it? Her face twisted with rage, and she lunged forward, slapping me hard across the face. This time, I had finally experienced the fiery temper of this little hellion. Likewise, it's about time she got a taste of my temper. Smack. With a blank expression, I raised my hand and struck back without a moment's hesitation. The blow left Hui Yin utterly stunned. This young lady must have been used to throwing her weight around in the Hua family. No one had ever dared to treat her this way. It took her several seconds to process the fact that she had just been slapped. Her eyes widened in utter shock. You dare hit me? Why wouldn't I dare? Ah, Hui Yin flew into a rage, shrieking at the top of her lungs. Then, the two of us just started grappling with each other. It scared the living daylights out of Huixing, who was standing nearby. Even though I'm not great at fighting, I did come back from a rebirth. After all, I know a girl's weak spots. I yanked Hui Yin's hair with all my might, and she held in pain. After just a few exchanges, she was already on the back foot. Hui Yin was seething with rage, but she couldn't beat me and refused to admit defeat. After scrambling to her feet, she shot me a venomous glare. He called Huisun on his smartwatch. Brother, get over here, right now, immediately. I got up from the ground as well and gave her a cold, mocking smile. So what if she's calling for backup? Who doesn't have an older brother? Then, I gave Ji Donya a call as well. 5 minutes later, Ji Donya and Huisun arrived at the same time, taking in my and Hui Yin's hair, which was as messy as a bird's nest, and the terrified Huixing standing off to the side. For a moment, I couldn't process what had just happened. Brother. Seeing her backup had arrived, Hui Yin ran to Huisun's side. Her voice choked with tears. Lin Shiyuan hit me. You have to get back at her for me. I'm going to make her pay for this today. The two of them finally realized what was going on. Ji Donya's expression changed dramatically upon hearing her words. With a grave look, he checked me over from head to toe. Only after confirming I wasn't bleeding anywhere and had no lumps on my head did he turn and say coldly, Hui Yin, are you out of your mind? If you're sick, go to a hospital. Don't make a scene here. Hui Yin was so furious at Ji Donya's insult that her face contorted with rage. You're the one who's sick. Your whole family is sick. She hit me first. Ji Donya snorted. So what if she hit you first? I don't believe for a second that Yuan Yuan would lay a hand on you without a good reason. If you hadn't been bullying Huixing every single day, driving him out with nowhere to go, do you think Yuan Yuan would have come at you? Don't get too full of yourself. Watch out. Or you might just get kidnapped again one of these days. Huisun had heard enough. He snapped coldly. Ji Donya, watch your mouth. Watch my mouth. Why don't you talk about how out of line your sister is, always kicking people out? If that's the case, you shouldn't have taken her in to begin with. Huisun didn't say anything more and instead gave Hui Yin's sleeve a tug. It's starting to rain. Let's get back. Hui Yin couldn't believe her brother was just dismissing her like that, telling her to go home. No, I won't. Why should I leave? Lin Shiyuan just hit me. Go on, hit her back for me. Huisun frowned. A flicker of displeasure finally crossed his brow at his own sister's unreasonable behavior. Since you're not coming, Huixing and I are leaving. Seeing that the two of them had actually left, Hui Yin stamped her feet in frustration, as if she wanted to shatter the floor tiles. Huisun took a few steps, then suddenly stopped. Ji Donya, does your sister still get frequent nosebleeds? Ji Donya looked utterly baffled and turned to ask me, when have you ever had a nosebleed? I had no idea. I shook my head. I never get nosebleeds. The warm yellow glow of the street lamp fell across Huisun's face. He pressed his lips together and studied me thoughtfully for a moment. After a long pause, a trace of mockery curled at the corner of his mouth. 16, after calming down. I felt a pang of regret. I shouldn't have fought with Hui Yin. What if she goes back and takes all her anger out on Huixing? Wouldn't that mean I've just gotten someone else into trouble? After all, Hui Yin came back so early in this life because of me. So, Huixing's current predicament is actually my fault. I began to feel remorse and asked instinctively, Ji Donya, was it wrong of me to fight with Hui Yin just now? Why shouldn't I? After Hui Yin goes back, do you think she'll? I thought for a moment. First graders probably hadn't learned the idiom to become aggravated yet, so I rephrased, do you think Hui Yin will take all her anger out on Huixing? He didn't see it that way. Even without tonight's incident, would Hui Yin really leave her alone? So what do we do? This situation is really quite tricky. They live under the same roof, seeing each other constantly, day in and day out. For Hui Yin, Causing trouble for Huixing was as easy as pie. Ji Dongye fell silent for a moment, thinking, before asking me, "Are you that worried about her?" It's impossible to say I'm not worried. After all, I'm pretty heavily involved in this whole mess, I replied glumly. Yeah, we'll have to ask Huixing first, see if she's willing to stay with the Hu family. If she's unwilling, then we'll see if the Hu family is willing to give up the adoption. If both parties can come to an agreement, we'll bring her to live with us. Hearing this, I froze in place, staring blankly at Ji Dongye. Are you serious? He gave a faint smile. Do I look like I'm joking? Oh my god, how badly does this guy want a little sister? I give up. But, will Auntie Ji agree? It's just an extra mouth to feed. Why wouldn't she agree? Only young Master Ji could say something like that. I know the Ji family is very wealthy, but adopting a child is far more complicated than just setting an extra place at the table. Not long after the Ji family adopted me, Mrs. Ji had already enrolled me in no fewer than 6 or 7 extracurricular classes. All of that costs a fortune. Actually, if Huixing could really move into the Ji family, that might not be such a bad idea. Ji Dongye suddenly thought of something and shot a glance at me. There's something I want to ask you. What is it? Why do you never call me brother? You always just call me Ji Dongye. My face grew inexplicably warm. I couldn't very well tell him that I just couldn't bring myself to call an 8-year-old boy brother. Did you adopt all these little sisters just so you could hear someone call you brother? Yeah, that's me. Ugh, 17. Ji Dongye made it sound simple, but he still had to pester Aunt Ji for a whole week. Aunt Ji finally relented, saying she would first go and sound out the Hu family. If they agreed, then they could figure out how to proceed with changing the adoption arrangements. However, it turned out that the Hu family did not agree. Mrs. Hu explained that Huixing had indeed been acting out these past few days because of the new addition to the family, but her family has been working on Huixing lately, trying to persuade her. Huixing has since come to fully realize her mistake and promised to get along better with Huixing in the future. Aunt Ji was left utterly embarrassed and had to slink back home. She even gave Ji Dongye a proper telling off, given the Hu family's stance. It's clear this matter is impossible. All I could tell Huixing was that if Huixing ever bullied her again, she should come find me at the Ji residence. Perhaps Huixing heeded her family's advice. After that, I rarely saw Huixing being thrown out of the house again. 18. Logically speaking, repeating elementary school should have felt incredibly boring. Strangely enough, I didn't find it dull at all. On the contrary, I thoroughly enjoyed that simple, monotonous, and cozy life, because I know time flies, swift as a fleeting white horse. A human life is, in truth, remarkably brief. Every single day, every single moment, should be fully savored, and that's exactly how it was. In the blink of an eye, I was in high school. Compared to elementary and middle school, high school life was noticeably busier, but all in all, I handled it with ease. Tisk tsk, you read novels nonstop every day, yet you still aced the midterms and came in first in the grade. You're just too good, you academic weapon. After school, Huixing couldn't help but shake his head after seeing what was on my phone screen. I turned off my phone and said with a straight face, as a reincarnator, it would be downright embarrassing if I couldn't outscore you kids. I think you've really lost the plot. The two of them walked toward the school gate together. Huh, where's your family's car? I have to take the bus home by myself today. Ji Dongye is letting you take the bus home. Why are you so reluctant to let go? Isn't he the one who's always afraid you'll run into some creep on the bus or subway, and never lets you go home alone? Ji Dongye is in the neighboring city for a physics competition these past couple of days, and driver Chen's family had a bereavement, so he's gone back to his hometown. Huixing let out a quiet, oh, no wonder, high school always lets out late anyway. By the time I got back to No. 1 Mansion, it was already completely dark outside. Huixing and I were discussing a popular anime when we suddenly heard a low, rumbling roar. The next instant, a motorcycle pulled up right in front of us. A girl got off the back. Her school skirt was so short, it was clearly hemmed up. Their hair was dyed in all sorts of bizarre colors, red, green, blue, purple. It was Huixing. They shared a quick kiss with the young punk on the motorcycle. The motorcycle sped away. Huixing pulled a black wig from her backpack and covered her brightly colored hair with it. She then took off her school uniform blazer, tied it around her waist to cover her bare thighs. Spotting me and Huixing, Huixing shot us a glare. If you dare tell my mom, you're dead. She was saying that to Huixing. Only after the other person had walked away, did I finally ask, was that her boyfriend just now? Huixing shook his head. I don't know. When it came to the high school entrance exams, Huayin didn't get into the affiliated high school, her father paid to get her into a private high school, so, she wasn't at the same school as Huixing and me. I thought about Huiyin's life in my previous existence. She dropped out at 14, was deceived by a punk at 15, had a child at 16, and had a kidney removed while working away from home at 17. She's 15 now. Although she hasn't dropped out of school, she still started dating a reckless young troublemaker. If this keeps up, I shook my head, thinking I was overcomplicating things. 19. Ji Donya hasn't been home these past couple of days. At the dinner table, it was just me, Auntie Ji, and Uncle Ji. Uncle Ji is usually very busy with work, so it was a rare treat for him to be home for dinner tonight, as usual. He asked about my recent studies and my midterm exam results. Auntie G never cared about my grades, her only concern was whether I had enough spending money, and she promptly transferred a large sum to me. After dinner, I got a call from Huixing. She said she'd come over to my place in a bit to do homework together. 5 minutes later, she called again to say she couldn't make it. Huayin asked her to bring a coat. What kind of coat? A down jacket. She went out with friends and forgot to bring one. She's insisting I bring it to her right now. Alright then, I won't wait for you. Okay, talk to you later. After finishing my homework and scrolling through videos for a while, I was about to go take a shower. Mrs. Lee came upstairs, knocked on the door, and said someone was looking for me downstairs. I went downstairs, and there was Huisun. Seeing me come down alone, he instinctively glanced behind me, then asked, "Isn't Huixing here?" I find this a bit odd. She didn't come over tonight. The other person thought for a moment, then nodded. I understand. Sorry to have bothered you. I glanced at my watch and realized it was almost 10:30. Didn't you call her? Huisun shook his head. Her phone is off. I couldn't get through. Didn't Huixing tell you where she went? I remember that phone call. She said she was going to bring Huayin a jacket. Maybe you should try calling Huayin. Both of their phones are off. The situation is a bit off. I racked my brain and finally remembered the address Huixing had mentioned on the phone, Queen's Bar. I'll go with you. 20. Having lived 2 lives. This was my first time in such a deafeningly loud and surreal place. I had no idea Queen's Bar was this huge. Not only was there a main hall and booths, but there were private rooms on every floor, from the first to the third. I had no choice but to search room by room with Huisun. When we finally found Huayin, she was shaking dice with a group of guys, a small green beer bottle in her hand. She was wearing a very sexy dress that seemed a bit too mature for her age. I didn't care about her. I only cared about Huixing. Soon enough, I saw Huixing. She had collapsed on the nearby sofa, deep in a slumber that seemed more like unconsciousness. What was worse, her school uniform had been unbuttoned, revealing the undershirt beneath. A boy with bleached blonde hair was sitting beside her, his hand groping inside her bra. My mind went blank with a sudden, deafening buzz. All the blood in my body rushed to my head in an instant. Without a second thought, I grabbed a bottle of liquor from the coffee table and charged forward. Thwack! I smashed the bottle over the blonde guy's head. He stared at me with a look of utter bewilderment. Then, a stream of dark red blood trickled down his forehead. The entire private room fell silent at that very moment. After a brief moment of stunned silence, the guy with the dyed hair wiped the blood from his face. Shit, you dare hit me, you've got a death wish. Enraged, he lunged at me, only to get punched in the face again. Huisun threw the punch. The private room erupted into chaos. Huisun had trained in Taekwondo and was no pushover in a fight, but they had him outnumbered, swarming him all at once. He was quickly overwhelmed. As I helped Huixing straighten her clothes, I discovered the back clasp of her bra had already been undone. A wave of fury surged through my chest once more. I grabbed another bottle of liquor and scanned the room for that bleach blonde guy. Once I spotted my target, I walked over and cracked the bottle over his head again. Bang! After a dull thud, the blondie's body swayed a couple of times. Clutching his head, he glared at me with eyes wide in fury. Fuck you, I'm gonna kill you. Just as he was about to settle the score with me again, my body lunged forward uncontrollably. Then I crashed heavily to the ground. It felt like I'd been kicked hard. I looked up. He really had been kicked. And the one who kicked him was Ji Donya. When did he get here? The punk, knocked to the ground, was seething with even greater rage and fury. Fuck you, you little bitch, I'm gonna have you today, no matter what. Ji Donya walked over, planted a foot on the guy's head, and looked down at him with the chilling presence of death itself. His gaze was icy, his words sharp as splintered glass. If you don't watch your filthy mouth, I'll rip it off for you. The blonde-haired man immediately fell silent at those words. 21. An hour later, everyone was giving their statements at the police station. considering that Ji Dongye, Hua-sun, and I were still students. The police let us off with a verbal warning, but those thugs didn't get off so easily. Hua-xing was only 15 years old. They forced me to drink and then sexually assaulted me. Hua-sun immediately summoned the Hua family lawyer. His goal was simple, to put those punks behind bars, especially that guy with the bleached hair. Hua-yin still seemed to want to plead for that group of people. Brother, they're all my friends, can we just let it go? Enough. Hua-sun spat out the 2 words angrily, 2 lifetimes now. This was the first time I'd ever seen Hua-sun speak to his own sister with such a bone-chilling coldness. Hua-yin, don't make me slap you in a place like this. Hua-yin stared at him in disbelief. As if brimming with grievances she had nowhere to voice. What's it got to do with me? I didn't force her to drink. She's just stupid and can't hold her liquor. 1 drink and she's out cold. That's not my problem. It suddenly dawned on me. Someone like Hua-yin is a hopelessly rotten seed. No matter what environment she grew up in, she lacks even the most basic empathy you'd expect from a woman. She could stand by and watch her own childhood friend be humiliated, showing not a flicker of concern. Instead, she just sat there grinning and drinking with the others. It's truly chilling to imagine how cold-blooded a person like that must be at their core. Ji Dongye let out a cold, disdainful snort from the side. Hua-xing had the worst luck in the world to be adopted by your Hua family. If she ever wakes up, she'll be filled with nothing but regret, knowing what she knows now. She'd have been better off growing up in the orphanage. Hua-sun's face turned pale, but he couldn't utter a single word in rebuttal. Hua-yin was hopping mad on the sidelines. Ji Dongye, what are you implying? Our Hua family has provided her with food and clothing. In what way have we wronged her? So providing food and clothing makes you a saint. How do you intend to compensate Hua-xing for the humiliation she suffered tonight? Why should I pay a damn thing? How do you know it was an insult? For all you know, she might have enjoyed it. The words were barely out of her mouth. My gaze, along with Ji Dongye's and Hua-sun's, snapped to her face in unison. None of us could believe Hua-yin had actually said something like that. What kind of malice must one harbor to say something like that to a 15-year-old girl? She saw the 3 of us glaring at her with cold hostility. Hua-yin's defiant air diminished somewhat, but she still refused to back down. Why are you all looking at me? I'm just telling the truth. Ji Dongye pondered for a moment, then turned to look at me. Shiyuan, I want you to always keep at least 5 meters away from Hua-yin from now on. Have nothing to do with her. So you don't get stabbed in the back later. That's hilarious. Ji Dongye, you treat your sister like a treasure, but to me, she's not worth a damn. 5 meters. I can't even be bothered to talk to her. Not wanting to argue with her any further, Ji Dongye grabbed my hand and led me away. It's getting late. Let's head back. 22. Hua-xing regained consciousness the next day, regarding the events of the previous night. Even if I didn't say anything, the police would still question her. After giving her statement to the police, Hua-xing fell into a deep silence that lasted for days. After getting Aunt Ji's permission, I asked Hua-xing if she would like to stay at the Ji residence for a while. She agreed without a second thought. The Ji family home was spacious, with plenty of rooms. Ever since Hua-xing moved in, her mood has noticeably improved. Not long after the bar incident, Hua-yin's mother apologized to her on Hua-yin's behalf, but this time, Hua-xing had no intention of forgiving her. So, this time, she and Hua-yin have completely cut ties. Saturday night, I was about to go for a night run when I ran into Hua-sun by the iron fence. I didn't want to acknowledge him at first, but he called out to me. Hua-sun handed me a stack of cash. Could you please give Hua-xing her allowance for this month? Seeing that I remained silent, he added by way of explanation. I tried to transfer the money to her before, but she didn't accept it. I'd appreciate your help, I scoffed lightly. Do you really think Hua-xing would be without an allowance, living with the Ji family? Hua-sun was taken aback and fell silent for a moment. She still bears the Hua name, you know she's a Hua, but it's a shame your sister only treats her like a Japanese to torment. With that, I made to leave. Hua-yin is Hua-yin, and I am me. Lin Shiyuan, you seem to really dislike me. Is there anything about you worth liking? What exactly did I do to upset you? You must have crossed me in a past life. Hua-sun let out a bitter, incredulous laugh. You don't like a brother like me, you prefer a brother like Ji Dongye. That's why you'd rather be adopted by the Ji family than by the Hua family, right? Looking at it now, it proves I made a very wise choice back then, doesn't it? Hua-sun was left speechless by my retort. As the 2 of them stood in a tense standoff, Ji Dongye had already come out of the house. He rushed between us and held me back with both hands, like a mother hen protecting her chicks, and Hua-sun was the hawk, watching with predatory intent. What's this? got nothing better to do than come cause trouble on our doorstep. Hua-sun sneered. Ji Dongya, are you a dog or something? Are you insane? You're the dog. Your whole family are dogs. If you're not a dog, how come your nose is so sharp? The moment any guy so much as talks to Lin Shiyuan, you come sniffing around. Ji Dongya paused, crossing his arms. So what? Lin Shiyuan is my sister. Is it wrong for me to come running when I smell trouble, just to protect her? Especially you people with the surname Hua. There isn't a single decent person in your whole family. Of course I have to keep a close eye on her. Hua-sun gave him a cold glance, a trace of mockery curling at the corner of his lips. You'd better mean that. After the other person had left, Ji Dongya couldn't help but ask me, what did he just say to you? I shook my head. It's nothing. He asked me to bring some money to Huixing, who wants his measly little handouts. Anyway, where are you going so late? Going for a night run? A night run? I'll join you. Wait for me while I change my shoes. No, it's fine. Of course you should. It's so late. What if you run into some creep? Alright, fine. 23. After Driver Chen's elderly mother passed away, his father's health took a turn for the worse. He'll likely need to take an extended leave and won't be able to come to work for the time being. The Ji family has 3 drivers on staff year-round. One was Uncle Ji's personal driver, one was Auntie Ji's, and another was responsible for driving Ji Dongya and me to and from school. Within a couple of days, the replacement for Driver Chen had arrived and started work. It's just that, the sight of that honest, good-natured face stopped me dead in my tracks. I've seen this man before, in her past life. Hua-in was taken back by the Hua family. My very presence seemed to make her fly into a rage at home almost every day. Mrs. Hua had no choice but to ask me to move out of the Hua residence. When I left, Mrs. Hua transferred me a sum of money, enough to cover my rent for the entire final year of high school. However, I had barely stepped out of the residential complex when Hua-in intercepted me. She looked at me with utter contempt. Hua Shiyuan, have you no shame at all? Our family raised you all these years, and you have the nerve to take my mother's money. If I were you, I wouldn't take it even if I had to sell myself on the streets. Have some decency and give my mother's money back right now. Hua-in gave me a real tongue lashing. Then, she snatched my phone and forcibly transferred every last cent from it. Late at night, I wandered the streets aimlessly, pushing my suitcase, just as I was agonizing over whether to call a classmate to borrow some money. A well-dressed man in a luxury car pulled up in front of me. After asking a couple of questions, he handed me 50,000 yuan and then drove off without a second thought. I was completely stunned. Fortunately, the man had left me his phone number. 3 months later, I was taken back to the Hua family by Hua-sun. I had intended to return the money to that man as soon as possible, but he told me over the phone that it wasn't necessary. After that, he never answered my calls again. For a while, I even thought I had been blessed by some kind of lucky charm. So, this man actually works for the Ji family. Could it be that the money in my past life came from the Ji family? But in my past life, I wasn't even close with the Ji family. To this day, I still don't understand why Ji Dongya from my past life sponsored my studies in the UK, after I turned him down. He even flew all the way back from the UK just to try and talk me into it. Of course, I used to wonder, did he have feelings for me? But that just seemed too incredible to be true. Frankly, I've never really known him well, not since we were kids. To me, Ji Dongya's identity can be summed up in just 2 points. 1. He's Hua-sun's classmate. 2. He lives in the same residential complex. Besides, Ji Dongya doesn't seem like the type, how should I put it? The kind of guy who falls in love at first sight and then loves a woman with unwavering, wholehearted, and profound devotion. Anyway, he's definitely not the type to believe in pure, idealized love. As the only son of the Ji family, he was wealthy, with dashingly handsome features, tall, and an overseas student to boot. He had so many perfect qualities he could have been the male lead in a romance novel. In my past life, I married Hua-sun. Ji Dongya happened to be in the country, and he came to my wedding with a few childhood friends. Hua-in took a liking to him right away. She even pestered him relentlessly for quite some time. Only when she saw that Ji Dongya was completely uninterested did she finally give up. Would someone like Ji Dongya ever fall for someone like me, who's barely exchanged a few words with him our whole lives? This isn't a novel. How could that be? So, I quickly dismissed that idea afterward. Right, anyway, I was genuinely happy to see the driver again. His surname is Wu, and he's not from around here. I heard his hometown is in the neighboring province. Perhaps it stems from a connection we had in a past life. I felt an unusual sense of familiarity with him. 24. Soon enough, my first year of high school with Huixing came to an end. Meanwhile, Ji Dongye was facing his college entrance exams. Unlike in his previous life, this time around, he did not go to the UK to study business administration. Instead, he chose to study finance at a top-tier domestic 985 university. As fate would have it, that was the very same university I had attended in my previous life. Huixing's life path remained unchanged. He still went to that same British university from his past life. The only difference was that this time, Huixing went abroad with him. I heard the Hu family has already arranged a place at a boarding school in the UK. She could start as soon as she arrives. Mrs. Hu asked Huixing for her opinion on whether she wanted to study in the UK. Huixing declined. The Hu family didn't press the matter any further. 2 years later, Huixing and I graduated from high school. I chose my alma mater from my previous life, but I picked a different major, software engineering, so, Ji Dongye and I became proper alumni. Huixing's university was in the same city as ours, not far away at all. When I was a sophomore, Ji Dongye started his internship at G Corporation. By the time I was a senior and looking for an internship myself, he was already a product manager. As the saying goes, it's easier to get ahead when you have connections on the inside, so, I naturally ended up at G Corporation, and even landed in Ji Dongye's department. I've latched onto him for good. The job is easy, the pay is decent, there's hardly any overtime, and I even get to ride in Ji Dongye's G-Wagon to work every day. Huixing was green with envy, driven by a noble childhood dream. She enrolled in a combined master's and doctoral program in clinical medicine. Every day is an endless cycle of books to read, exams to take, and experiments to run, not to mention the frequent bus rides to the hospital that feel like a prison sentence. Life was so tough for her that she'd call me every night just to vent and pour her heart out. She said she really missed us and wanted to come back to be with everyone. She even joked about just finding some cushy job at the G Corporation to coast along. If the sky falls, Ji Dongye will be there to hold it up for her. Perfect. When you're back, we can play mahjong with Ji Dongye and Auntie Ji. You've learned how to play mahjong, I said with a laugh. Yeah, I've been playing with Driver Wu and Uncle Zhang every day lately, and I've even won a fair bit of money. They say beginners have all the luck. Ugh. I'm studying until my head spins every day. And you're off having a grand old time behind my back. That's just not fair. How about I share some of my winnings with you? Getting money without having to lift a finger sounds pretty good, right? Do I care about the money? What I care about is why you get to play mahjong and I don't. You sure you don't want it? Alright then. Ji Dongye actually asked me today if you had enough for living expenses, and said he could send you some if you needed it. I haven't even spent all the pocket money Aunt Ji sent me last time. Don't worry, I'll definitely ask him if I run short. Later on, Huixing called me less and less frequently. I just thought she was getting busier and busier. Then one weekend, she said she was bringing someone home for dinner. To our astonishment, we discovered the girl was actually dating someone. It was a senior from her department, just 1 year ahead of her. He's tall and incredibly handsome. Kind of like An Hyo-seop from the Korean drama DR, romantic. I couldn't believe my eyes the first moment I saw him. Do they really make guys in medical school who look like that? Huixing nodded in confirmation. Yes, I had to pull out all the stops to land him. You lucky girl, you've got great taste. Are there any more guys like that at your school? Hook your big sister up. You, no way, I wouldn't dare. What's that supposed to mean? I'm afraid I'll get beaten up. Are you crazy? Who would dare lay a hand on you? Someone would, that's for sure. While we were roughhousing, Ji Dongye came over and asked if we wanted to play mahjong. Huixing brought her boyfriend home today, and Uncle Ji, wanting to vet him for her, was also home for a rare occasion. Wanna play? I asked her. Bring it on. Huixing readily agreed. Once we were seated at the table, Uncle Ji and Aunt Ji, the two tycoons, sat across from us. Huixing and I sat opposite them. Huixing's boyfriend, Lu Xingxin, and Ji Dongye stood behind the two of us, acting as our strategists. I've been on a lucky streak lately. I haven't lost a single game of cards with Driver Wu and Uncle Zhang, but for some reason, today was different. I've been at the table for nearly half an hour and haven't won a single hand. I drew a 5 of circles on the last tile. I want to declare a Kong. After all, fortune favors the bold. Who knows, I might even get a Kong on a Kong. Ji Dongye coughed several times behind me. I thought he had a cold and didn't pay it any mind, but then, with one wrong discard, both Uncle Ji and Auntie Ji snatched the winning tile, and my losses were devastating. Huixing was laughing his head off. Ji Dongye was practically coughing his lungs out right behind you. You didn't notice, so who's to blame? I was utterly speechless. That was way too subtle of a hint. How was I supposed to know what you meant? You could have just nudged me. Ji Dongye put a hand to his forehead, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Miss, are my hints still not obvious enough? I was this close to grabbing your hand to tell you to stop arguing. Aunt Ji glanced at her son and shook her head. They really weren't obvious enough. Yuan's been losing all night. I don't know what kind of strategy you, her military advisor, have been directing. Hearing this, Uncle Ji chimed in. Son, your mahjong skills could use some work. Ji Dongye humbly accepted the criticism from the two elders, picked up his phone, and tapped a few times. 3 seconds later, my phone chimed with a transfer notification, a transfer from young Master Ji, for 200,000. Alright, my bad on the call, little Lin Shiyuan, tonight's on me, you keep the winnings, I'll cover the losses. Deal. To be honest, I only lost a few thousand in total. This sudden windfall is actually making me feel a bit awkward. So I'm the clown here, huh? Fine, you all just keep spoiling her. Huixing quipped from the side. Let's share the wealth. I'll transfer you 100 grand. It's Ji Dongye's money anyway, won't hurt to spend it. Huixing hurriedly refused. No, my sweetheart will cover whatever I lose tonight. Who's going to cover your losses? You're Ji Dongye. That sounds a bit off. Who's Ji Dongye? Huixing's expression faltered. He licked his lips and then continued. That's your family's Ji Dongye. My surname is Hua. I'm not one of yours, remember. Unbelievable. 25. 2 days later, Huixing came back again, saying he needed to make a trip to the Hua family home. What are you going there for? My brother's back. Hua-sun, it came back to me. In my past life, he had returned around the time of my graduation, too. Not long after I returned to the country, Hua-sun proposed to me. I was completely stunned at the time. Once I processed it, I naturally refused without a second thought. Ever since we were kids, I've always thought of Hua-sun as my own brother. I could never bring myself to marry my own brother. To my surprise, the entire Hua family began trying to persuade me. Mr. Hua said that Hua-sun and I grew up together, knowing each other inside and out. Getting married would also spare us the complications of an arranged match. Mrs. Hua appealed to my emotions and reasoned with me. It seems our mother-daughter bond was destined in this lifetime. Perhaps it's for the best. I truly wouldn't feel at ease if you married into another family. Huayin said to me coldly. Our family has raised you for so long, and now that you've graduated from university, you think you can just walk away without a second thought. How can you be so ungrateful? In the end, I couldn't withstand the pressure from the Hua family and had no choice but to marry Hua-sun. Married life was far from blissful. Hua-sun was always busy and seldom came home. Eventually, it dawned on me, he wasn't busy, he was deliberately giving me the cold shoulder. In fact, I felt a wave of relief. Two people who had grown up together like siblings saw their relationship abruptly transform into that of husband and wife. To be honest, I don't know how to face him either. If this marriage could just continue on like this, uneventfully, it wouldn't be such a bad thing. Just as I was settling into that thought, something happened to shatter the calm. Huiyin's engagement was called off. Her fiancé was the son of a close friend of Mr. Hua. Somehow, he found out that Huiyin had once undergone major surgery, losing a kidney, and had even given birth to a child in the countryside. He was then adamant about breaking off the engagement with the Hua family. In truth, the details of Huiyin's past had been kept tightly under wraps. Ever since she was brought back to the Hua family at 18, her parents had pulled strings to get her enrolled in a junior college. After graduating from her associate degree program, she went straight to work for the Hua Group. With her father as the chairman and her brother as the general manager, she only held a sinecure position at the company. Her daily routine essentially consisted of shopping sprees at the mall with her girlfriends. Later, through an introduction arranged by her parents, she went on a matchmaking date with the son of a prominent family. The guy is really handsome and a returnee from overseas. He's got the looks and the credentials. Huiyin is quite taken with him. They got engaged not long after they started dating. Just as the couple were discussing marriage, the man called off the engagement. Huiyin was utterly heartbroken. She returned home in a rage, throwing things around. She blamed her parents, saying that if they hadn't lost her all those years ago, she wouldn't have been publicly humiliated by having her engagement broken off today. She also accused Hua-sun, her own brother, pointing out that as siblings, she should have enjoyed their parents' doting affection from childhood, attended elite schools, and studied abroad, just as he had. Yet, I ended up with only a college diploma. unable to speak a word of a foreign language, and looked down upon everywhere. Then, she started cursing at me loudly. She called me shameless, a usurper who stole her place, and wicked to the core. She accused me of stealing her life. She asked me why I was so shameless, why I still hadn't gotten lost even though she'd been back at the Hua family home for so long, and why I insisted on clinging to their household. Why did I have to marry her brother and continue monopolizing her parents? She even said someone like me should have grown up in an orphanage, eating spoiled food, drinking rancid water, and being molested by old men. And that even as an adult, I'd only be fit to date delinquents and get into fights with street girls. She screamed that I was the one who should have had a kidney ripped out. She said I wasn't fit to live under their roof, that I belonged with the filthiest maggots at the bottom of society. With a twisted face, Hua-in hurled every vile curse she could think of at me, stomping her feet and smashing things all over the living room. But she seemed to have forgotten. I moved out not long after she was brought back to the Hua family. It was Hua-sun who stubbornly insisted on bringing me back, and he was adamant that I should stay with the Hua family. Besides, it wasn't me shamelessly begging to marry her brother, it was their whole family taking turns to persuade me to marry Hua-sun. Our lives weren't some story of switched nannies or mistaken identities between a rich heiress and a poor girl. It was a year after she went missing that her parents went to the orphanage themselves, asking to adopt a child. In other words, even if it hadn't been me, they would have adopted some other girl. After Hui-yin's furious outburst at home that day, Hua-sun's attitude towards me turned ice cold. So did Mr. and Mrs. Hua's. Overnight, Mrs. Hua dismissed all the domestic staff in the household. She then sternly warned me that from then on, I would be solely responsible for cleaning the entire villa and preparing all 3 daily meals for the entire family. Mr. Hua stood silently by, clearly giving his tacit approval to his wife's words. In that moment, I felt the intense hatred the entire family harbored towards me. Obviously, they're blaming me for Hui-yin's ruined life. They're getting back at me. It's been nearly 2 years. I became the Hua family's live-in nanny, on call 24/7, every day. I was spinning like a top, constantly juggling all sorts of household chores, laundry, cooking, grocery shopping, mopping the floors. The worst part was, whenever I was around, the whole family treated me as if I were invisible. Everyone was slowly killing me with their icy stares and cold, dismissive body language, except for Hua-in. She was the only one who wouldn't ignore me. Instead, she would curse at me, hurl insults, mock me, and even deliberately push me down the stairs. The day finally came when I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't want to keep wasting away in these oppressive and gloomy days. I was going to lose my mind if this continued, so I asked Hua-sun for a divorce and told him I would find work soon to repay the Hua family for all the money they had spent on me over the years. But Hua-sun flatly refused. To this day, I can't forget the icy chill in his eyes. Hua Shiyuan, what gives you the right to ask me for a divorce? Yinin has suffered for so many years. You must spend the rest of your life atoning for it. The rest of my life. I was only adopted by the Hua family for 12 years. I left the Hua family for university at 18, and I haven't asked them for a single penny since. Why should I trade my entire life for those 12 years? I completely snapped, screaming hysterically. I never begged you to adopt me. You were the ones who came to the orphanage and brought me back to the Hua family. Why should I atone? What gives you the right to demand that I atone? It was your family's nanny who abducted Hua-in. Your whole family should be atoning, not just me. What gives you the right to put this all on my shoulders? Hua-in dropped out at 14 because she was stupid, dim-witted, and couldn't learn. Dating that punk at 15 was a sign she was messed up in the head. Having a kid at 16 was the consequence of her chasing her own pleasure. Getting a kidney cut out in a fight at 17, that's just her being a damn fool. None of this has anything to do with me, not a single damn thing. Even if Hua-in hadn't been kidnapped and had grown up safe and sound in your precious Hua family, who's to say she would have turned out any different? How do you know she wouldn't have ended up exactly the same way? Smack. Hua-sun's response was a heavy slap across my face. I covered my cheek, staring blankly at that cruel and ruthless face. Hua Shiyuan, if you keep spouting nonsense, or dare to mention divorce to me again, I won't hesitate to have you committed to a psychiatric hospital on grounds of insanity. 26. Yuan, you look pale. What's wrong? Hua Xing's voice, full of concern, rang out. I snapped out of my reverie with a jolt and pressed a hand to my forehead. It's nothing. I just haven't been sleeping well these past few days. You didn't stay up late binge watching shows again, did you? No, I didn't. Hu Xing remembered something and turned around to get his bag. Want some sleeping pills? I think I have some in my bag. I haven't been sleeping well either with exams coming up. No, it's fine. Aren't you supposed to be at the Hua's for dinner? You should get going. You sure? I'm sure. Alright, I'm heading off. Yeah, 27, Friday evening. While out for a walk, I passed a supermarket not far from my neighborhood and realized it had been a while since I'd bought any daily essentials, so I went in and picked up a few things, but when I went to pay, I discovered I'd brought the wrong phone with me. I had grabbed my spare phone, the one I hardly ever use. My backup phone isn't linked to a bank card, and there's only a few dozen yuan in my WeChat wallet. I had to give up on the idea. I'm sorry. I forgot to bring any money. I'll have to pass for now. I gave the cashier an apologetic smile. I hadn't gone far from the supermarket when someone came up behind me and handed me a bag. I glanced inside. It was the very items I had spent so long picking out but hadn't paid for. No, thank you. I didn't pay for these, so they're not mine, I said calmly. Hu Sun raised an eyebrow, a faint smirk playing on his lips. You think I have any use for these things? I remembered then that I had also grabbed a few boxes of tampons. After a brief pause, I took the bag. I'll pay you tomorrow. How about we add each other on WeChat? You can transfer it to me whenever you're free. Hu Sun took out his phone, displayed the QR code, his voice cheerful. Without hesitation, I immediately called Hu Xing. The call was answered almost immediately. Hu Xing, can you transfer 200 to your brother for me? To my brother? What for? Just do it for now. I'll explain later. In less than a minute, Hu Sun's phone chimed with a notification. He looked at me, utterly defeated and helpless. Lin Shiyuan, after all these years, you haven't changed a bit. What on earth did I do to offend you? I knew he had a strong sense of pride and was usually quite aloof, so I got straight to the point. You haven't done anything wrong, but you're just too ugly. I don't want to see you, so could you please stay away from me? Since elementary school, Hu Sun had grown up with girls constantly slipping him love letters. His looks had always been top tier, never missing a beat. Right then, caught off guard by my insult about his ugliness, his face visibly darkened. He said coldly, you don't know what's good for you. Then he turned and left in a huff. After I got home, Hu Xing called me. What was that all about? Did you run into my brother? He wouldn't take the money. I only spoke to him for a moment before he hung up, and he seemed pretty upset. But then he called back and asked me to send him your WeChat contact. I haven't done it yet. I said I'd ask you first. I rubbed my temples and said flatly, don't. Alright, I get it. Looking at the stuff I'd just brought back, I felt a wave of irritation. Are you kidding me? Who told him to pay? This is utterly baffling. 28. I think I'm having a serious run of bad luck lately. Otherwise, why would I keep running into people I'd rather not see? Well, if it isn't Lin Shiyuan. Long time no see. Looks like you've really fallen on hard times. What kind of junk heap are you driving? Is the G family about to go bankrupt or something? At the entrance of one mansion, I didn't even have a chance to mourn my brand new, freshly dented car. A voice laced with mockery and scorn reached my ears. I followed the sound. From the driver's seat of a red sports car, a young woman was stepping out. She had wavy hair, red lips, and a pair of oversized sunglasses covering her face. She was teetering on sky-high heels. It was actually Huayin. You were just speeding, and besides, you can't drive in heels that high. Huayin scoffed. Look at you, all pathetic. I wouldn't even take this piece of junk if you gave it to me, and here you are, acting like it's breaking your heart. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her and got ready to call the insurance company. Before I could dial, Ji Dongya's call came through first. Why aren't you here yet? Weren't you right behind me? My car got hit. There was a pause on the other end, and their voice immediately tensed up. Are you hurt? Where are you? Right at the entrance to the neighborhood. 3 minutes later, the black G-Class drove out. Ji Dongye got out of the car and gave me a thorough once-over. Only after seeing I was unharmed did he let out a sigh of relief. Ji Dongye. Huayin walked over and called out his name tentatively. Ji Dongye turned his head, perhaps because the other person was wearing sunglasses. He didn't recognize them at first. Who are you? Huayin took off her sunglasses, her eyes sparkling, her voice several shades softer than before. I'm Huayin. Ji Dongye stared at her for a few seconds, then glanced at the sports car behind her. Your car? Yeah, how are you even driving? Can you even drive in heels that high? Huayin looked sullen and shrugged her shoulders. It's not like I did it on purpose. Did you report it to the insurance? Ji Dongye asked me. I didn't even get a chance. I called the insurance company, explained the general situation, and took some photos at the scene. the damage to the car wasn't too severe, but the front bumper definitely needs to be replaced, and one of the lights is damaged. Next, just bring the car to the dealership whenever you have a free day. Ji Dongye, what's your number? Let's add each other on WeChat. Just before leaving, Huayin suddenly grabbed Ji Dongye's arm, her face beaming with enthusiasm. No need. The insurance company will call you. Just follow the standard procedure. Ji Dongye replied to her in a perfunctory, bureaucratic tone. It made Huayin stamp her foot in frustration. 29, what a shame, my brand new car got hit on its third day out. I waited months specifically for this new Mini. I'm absolutely gutted. I didn't even have much of an appetite for dinner. It wasn't until after 10 o'clock that Ji Dongye knocked on my door. In his hands was a bowl of steaming hot noodles, still feeling down. What's wrong? Ji Dongye walked in and placed the bowl of noodles on the desk. You barely ate any dinner, right? I asked Auntie Zhang to make you some noodles. No way, eating at this hour is the quickest way to gain weight. You're already so thin, what's the harm in putting on a little weight? Nip it in the bud. If you make an exception today, you'll be making another one tomorrow. Ji Dongye stood with his arms crossed, watching me with an air of leisurely anticipation. $200 per bite, damn it, only a fool would turn down easy money. Deal. I took 5 bites, made $1,000, and decisively put down my chopsticks, giving up on making money already. He gave a slight, patient smile and continued to coax me. Just have one more sip of soup. I shook my head firmly. Soup is the easiest way to put on weight. Ji Dongye thought for a moment, then suggested to me, how about you drive my car first? Once your skills improve, I'll buy you a new Mini. Drive his big G-Wagon. Oh, come on, I can't even afford the gas, maintenance, insurance, all covered. Happy now. I don't like driving those hulking beasts. I'm a mini person, otherwise, I wouldn't have waited for months. Ji Dongye couldn't help but ruffle the top of my head, as if petting a puppy. Then just keep driving this one. When you don't like it anymore, I'll buy you a brand new one just like it. Happy now. Well, when young Master Ji, with all his wealth and influence, puts it that way, I had no choice but to agree. 30. The next day at noon, I had just stepped out of the office building with 2 colleagues, and we were discussing where to grab lunch when someone called out to us. Oh, Lin Shiyuan, I didn't know you worked here too. I looked up, my face froze in shock. What the hell? What is Huayin doing here? The security guard breathed a sigh of relief. Miss Lin, you're just in time. This young lady insists on going up to see Manager Ji. Upon seeing me, Huayin acted with familiar ease. Lin Shiyuan, which floor is your brother on? What's his phone number? A past life. Huayin first met Ji Dongye at my wedding to Huasun and was instantly captivated by him, launching into an unrelenting pursuit right after. In this life, she and Ji Dongye are practically old friends who grew up together, though they haven't seen each other in years. Who would have thought such a plot would unfold? I asked calmly, did you need him for something? Of course. What is it? Why should I tell you? She said with an eye roll. Oh, and why should I give you his number? Just as my 2 colleagues and I were about to leave, the other person called out to stop us. Lin Shiyuan, don't tell me you've got a thing for your brother. Ji Dongye, who would have thought? She puts on such an innocent act, but who knows what she's really doing to seduce him behind closed doors. I never imagined Huayin could sink to such depths of rudeness. After 6 years in the UK, it seems she hasn't improved one bit. How about we go get some Teochew clay pot rice? I walked further and further away with my 2 colleagues, completely ignoring her. Over the next few days, Huayin kept trying to get close to Ji Dongye. She couldn't catch him at the office, so she came straight to his home. To be honest, I think she's pretty shameless, because anyone with eyes can see that Ji Dongye has zero interest in her. He avoids her like the plague. Yet Huayin is the one who's blind to it. I just can't bring myself to chase after a man like that. 31. The turning point came when Huaxing brought Lu Xingxin back to the Ji family for a meal. Huayin came to the Ji residence looking for Ji Dongye and happened to run into the handsome and charming Lu Xingxin. Her eyes lit up again. It was the exact same look she had when she saw Ji Dongye that day, even when Huaxing introduced him as her boyfriend, Lu Xingxin. The fiery intensity in Huayin's gaze didn't diminish in the slightest. Just as I thought, after that day, the number of times she came to ambush Ji Dongye dropped noticeably. A few days later, Huaxing called to tell me something. Mr. Hu took Huayin to have a meal with Lu Xingxin and his father. It took me a moment to process that. Lu Xingxin and his father, your dad knows them. Seems like he does. Why is Huayin here? Isn't this a setup? Does your dad not know Lu Xingxin is your boyfriend? My father doesn't know. Only Huayin is aware of it. I thought about it for a moment. She's probably been hitting a wall with Ji Dongye lately. So now she's trying to steal your man, but logically speaking, someone as calculating and pragmatic as Huayin wouldn't make a move just because Lu Xingxin is good-looking. Is your boyfriend's family well off? Hu Xing let out a soft sigh over the phone. Renqin Hospital was founded by his grandfather. Renqin Hospital is the largest and most reputable private hospital in our city. I see, that makes sense. Huayin's taste is as consistent as ever, just like in her past life. She's into good-looking, charming, and wealthy heirs, so, what's your plan now? I'm taking Lu Xingxin to the Hua family for dinner tonight. My father should get the message. Confronting it head-on is a good approach too. When evening came, Hu Xing quickly reported her success to me. She said that when she showed up at the Hua family home with Lu Xingxin, her father was completely taken aback. After introducing Lu Xingxin's identity to the whole family, she made a point of emphasizing that Huayin and Lu Xingxin had already met at the Ji family home last time. Father Hua's expression visibly grew much more serious. After dinner, Mr. Hua saw her out and made a point of apologizing to her. He admitted that he had previously taken Huayin out for a meal with Dean Lu and his son, but at the time, he had no idea that Lu Xingxin was Hu Xing's boyfriend. Not only that, but Mr. Hua also apologized on behalf of his daughter, Huayin. Hu Xing said that Huayin wore a face as dark as thunder the entire evening. It was absolutely fantastic. I am deeply gratified. Excellent, excellent. Our Hu Xing is no longer the little pushover he was as a child. Well done, but don't let your guard down. You know what Huayin is like, she holds a grudge and is petty. Don't let her pull a fast one on you. Hu Xing wholeheartedly agreed. I know, from now on, I'll avoid going to the Hua family house as much as I possibly can. Other things I can let slide, but Lu Xingxin, he was a tough catch. Do you have any idea how hard it is to land a handsome, clear-eyed guy from the medical school as a boyfriend? 32. After that, Huayin gave up on any designs regarding Lu Xingxin. She probably intended to turn her attention back to pestering Ji Dongye. Unfortunately, Ji Dongye was away on a business trip abroad. After failing to catch him for several days in a row, she had no choice but to let it go. Life returned to its peaceful routine. My days are a cycle of commuting to work, heading home, and attending all sorts of meetings, big and small, conducting market research, analyzing client needs, planning products, setting up exhibitions. I'm kept busy and thoroughly engaged every single day. When Ji Dongye returned from his business trip abroad and saw me, his brow immediately furrowed with concern. You've gotten so thin. Have you not been eating properly? I've been swamped with the new product launch lately. You still have to eat, no matter how busy you are. I give up. Let's go. Where to? My treat. Why are you treating me to a meal? I asked, a bit puzzled. We rarely eat out. As a rule, Auntie Jane's cooking is truly exceptional, easily on par with any 5-star chef. She prepares a different, elaborate menu for us every single day. The most important thing is, eating at home is much cleaner than dining out. Ji Dongye thought for a moment. I heard a new Western restaurant opened on Central Road. Let's give it a try. Hearing that, I had no choice but to agree. This newly opened restaurant is in a prime, high-value location, perched on the 56th floor. The decor is artistic and tasteful, with a niche, refined vibe. Standing by the window, you can overlook the night view of most of the city. When ordering, the waitress said, "Sir, our Cloud Peak Western restaurant is currently in a soft opening phase. Any couples dining with us can enjoy a 30% discount." Ji Dongye, who was in the middle of ordering, paused for a moment before suddenly taking my hand. We're a couple. Very well. If you two are willing to confirm that, I'll make a note now, and you'll receive the discount when you settle the bill. Proof? I'm a bit confused. More proof is needed. How do you prove it? Ji Dongye was also taken aback for a moment. The young woman explained, sorry, but ever since our restaurant launched the couples discount, a lot of people who aren't actually couples have been pretending to be one to get the deal. To prevent this, all couples participating in the promotion need to prove it. You and your girlfriend just need to share a quick kiss. A quick kiss? Is this Chinese? I'm trying to figure out what this sentence means. A little kid at the next table accidentally spilled their soup, making a mess all over the table and their clothes. The waitress who took our order said sorry and then hurried off towards the service counter, probably to grab a cloth or something. Ji Dongye leaned in and whispered to me, what should we do? Let's just forget it. We can't use this discount. Ji Dongye cleared his throat softly. For 2 people, we could save at least 200 or 300. When did you become so stingy? Money doesn't grow on trees these days. True. His money didn't just fall from the sky, either. The waitress will be back in a moment, sir. Would you like to use the couple's discount? Donya's gaze softened slightly, his expression calm and composed. May I give my girlfriend a kiss on the cheek? It's quite crowded here, and she gets embarrassed easily. The young lady thought for a moment, then nodded with a tone of understanding. All right then, I suppose I can make an exception for someone as handsome as you. Does anyone care what I think? And then, Donya gave me a quick light peck on the cheek. The young lady placed her order and left, looking quite pleased. I'm not sure what happened. Strangely, I didn't feel all that embarrassed. I suppose it's because I know Donya too well. But he was perfectly composed just a moment ago. Now, for some reason, the tips of his ears are turning a faint pink. Not long after, a suspicious blush spread across his face as well. Are you okay? I asked him. What? Your face is all red. A flicker of embarrassment and panic crossed Donya's face, but he quickly composed himself. He fanned himself a couple of times with his hand and said earnestly, It's so hot. Don't you think it's a bit warm in here? Is it hot? I don't feel it at all. 33. Since there was still a little time before the meal, I went to the restroom. On my way out, I ran into someone in the hallway. Hwasun. He was leaning against the wall, his face expressionless. He seemed to be lost in his own thoughts, or perhaps he was waiting for someone. I, of course, paid him no mind and walked straight past. Lin Shiyuan, he called out to me. I ignored him. Are you dating Donya? Is he out of his mind? So, you're into that kind of forbidden romance. Don't you think it's disgusting, you two pretending to be siblings while being a couple? I stopped in my tracks and looked at him. What's it to you? Hwasun sneered. It's none of my business, but it disgusts me. I sneered back. What's it to you if I'm happy? I turned to leave, but a hand shot out and yanked me back. Hwasun pinned me against the wall, his pitch-black pupils contracting sharply, his stormy expression, heavy with suppressed fury, carried the oppressive tension of a gathering storm. Lin Shiyuan, is this your way of trying to get my attention? I'm speechless. Who would have thought that the usually aloof and dignified young Master Hua could say something so arrogantly presumptuous? Getting the wrong idea is a sickness. You should go make a doctor's appointment. The disgust on my face was plain to see. Hwasun's expression turned completely frosty. After a long moment, he curled his lips into a careless, mocking smile. That's for the best. Back at the restaurant, I spotted Hwasun at a table not far from ours. Sitting across from him was a very stylish and strikingly beautiful girl. They seemed to be on a date. No wonder. He must have just seen Donya kissing me. What a lunatic. Why do you look so pale? Donya noticed my change in mood and followed my gaze. His expression shifted slightly. Did you just run into Hwasun? I gave a quiet What did he say to you? Nothing much, seeing that I had fallen silent. Donya tactfully quieted down and didn't ask any further. After dinner, the two of them went home. I must have dozed off at some point. When I woke up, the car was already parked outside the courtyard. Donya's down jacket was draped over my chest, and the car's heater was still running. He was sitting quietly in the passenger seat, scrolling through the news. We're here. Why didn't you wake me? I mumbled, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. You were sleeping so soundly. Why didn't you drive in? I was afraid if they made a racket, you'd wake up again. I checked the time and realized I must have slept for at least an hour and a half. Donya probably got home about an hour ago. Unbelievable. He must have the patience of a saint. 34. That evening, the company had us working late for a department meeting. The meeting had just started when my phone rang. It's Hwasun calling. While my colleague was setting up the PowerPoint on stage, I put on my headphones. Hwasun, what's up? There was no response on the other end of the line. Hello, Hwasun. Still nothing. Must have been a pocket dial. I didn't hang up right away, and waited a little longer. The line is busy. It's very quiet over there. There's the occasional sound of wind. Sounds like they're driving. About 20 minutes passed like that. Seeing that Hwasun still hadn't responded, I was about to hang up. But just before I could end the call, a clear voice came through. Brother Zhou, are you at the bar? A shiver ran down my spine. That's Hu Yin's voice. Why hasn't Hwasun said a word? Could the two of them be together? Is Hwasun unwilling to speak, or is she unable to? Brother Zhou, the bar. I suddenly remembered the incident from years ago, when Hwasun was tricked by Hu Yin into going to the Queen's bar. I shot up from my seat and bolted out of the conference room. Hwasun's phone number immediately flashed into my mind. After all these years, I can still remember it so clearly. Not daring to hang up the mobile phone I was on, I picked up the landline receiver on my desk and quickly dialed Hwasun. After 2 rings, a familiar, yet distant voice came through the line. Who is this? Hua-sun, it's Lin Shiyuan, is Huaxing with Huayin tonight? There was a pause on the line, and the tone was flat. Huaxing came over to my place tonight for my mom's birthday. She had a bit to drink, so Huayin took her home. A chill ran through my entire body. Huaxing never normally drank, and if she had been even slightly sober, she would never have let Huayin take her home alone. I tried to steady my trembling hands. Hua-sun, if you still consider Huaxing your sister, call Huayin right now. Ask her calmly where she is and if she's dropped Huaxing off safely. Remember, keep your tone calm. He seemed to pick up on the implication in my words. Lin Shiyuan, what exactly are you trying to say? I calmly explained. Huayin knew all along that Lu Xingxin was Huaxing's boyfriend, yet she still persuaded your father to take her to dinner with Dean Liu and his son, because she had her eye on Lu Xingxin and was determined to take him for herself. But Huaxing didn't back down. She chose to bring Lu Xingxin back to the Hua family home and directly revealed his true status. Huayin not only failed to achieve her goal but was also confronted head-on by Huaxing in such a blunt and unsparing manner. Huayin is your own sister. You know exactly what she's like. Huaxing never drinks, so why was she drinking at your place tonight? And why was Huayin so kind as to take her home, when she can't stand her? If what happened at the Queen's Bar 7 years ago happens again, Hua-sun, you'll be just as guilty. There was no further sound from the receiver before the line went dead. I picked up the phone beside me and held it to my ear. The constant roar of the wind filled my ears. Huayin must still have been driving. Suddenly, the car phone rang again, and I tensed up instantly. Brother Zhou, I'm on Jijiang Road now. About 10 minutes from the Tianyun bar. I'll get this girl settled in a booth in a bit. After that, she's all yours. Take her upstairs to a room or to the bathroom, whatever you want. Make sure you take pictures for me. Video would be even better. I want to see if, after tonight, Dean Liu would still want a shameless daughter-in-law like her. I clenched my phone tightly. The Huayin of today, compared to the one from 7 years ago, is even more utterly foolish and beyond redemption. The Skycloud bar. I spun around and collided right into Ji Dongya. What's wrong? Seeing my panicked expression, he quickly steadied me. Huaxing is in trouble. We need to get to the Skycloud bar, now. 20 minutes later, Ji Dongya and I arrived at the bar. Ji Dongya pulled out a wad of cash and found the bar manager. The manager quickly checked the surveillance footage and soon learned which room Huaxing was in. When the door opened, the man was standing there naked, adjusting the camera lens. Huaxing lay unconscious on the bed. What the hell? Who are you people? Who let you in? Get the hell out of here. Seeing a group of people suddenly burst into the room, the man frantically wrapped a towel around himself and started shouting. I stared at the gaunt, dark-skinned man before me. It suddenly came back to me. This man was the very same blonde punk from 7 years ago, 36. In the end, the guy with the dyed hair was taken away by the police once again. Huaxing, meanwhile, was taken to the hospital. After a thorough examination, the doctor found some bruises on his arms and legs, but there were no signs of sexual assault. The reason for Huaxing's prolonged unconsciousness was most likely due to being drugged with a sedative. Hearing that, a great weight lifted from my heart. It went on until the early hours. Just before dawn, I groggily opened my eyes. I realized Huaxing was already awake. I'm leaning against the pillow, sending a message. You're awake. Huaxing saw me, and a smile spread across his lips. Yeah, how are you feeling? Any discomfort? I felt a bit dizzy when I first woke up, but I'm fine now. I breathed a sigh of relief. Instead, Huaxing asked me, what about you? Are you hungry? Ji Dongya went back to get breakfast. Auntie Zhang made congee and steamed some soup dumplings at home. I shook my head, looking at her with some concern. I'm not hungry. Are you? Are you okay? Huaxing smiled and held out a hand. I walked over. She wrapped her arms around my waist, holding me tight, and sniffled. She said softly, I'm fine. The doctor told me nothing happened yet. You and Ji Dongye got there just in time. Yuan. Thank you. You saved me, again. I hugged her and gave her a gentle pat. Don't mention it. You were the smart one, calling me. Otherwise, neither of them spoke another word. A long moment passed. So, what's your plan now? As for Blondie, Ji Dongye says it won't be a problem to have him put away for another couple of years. And as for Huayin, Huaxing's tone could be described as light and calm. Yuan, I don't intend to hold Huayin accountable, even if I wanted to pursue the matter. My parents would inevitably come begging to me, so I figured it's not worth the trouble. After this incident, my ties with the Hua family are pretty much severed. I most likely won't be returning to the Hua household from now on. I've come to realize that the best way to get back at someone is to indulge their flaws. With a personality like Huayin's, she's bound to cause a major disaster sooner or later. There's no need for me to lift a finger. Huixing does have a point, and besides, everyone has their own idea of what's right, and there's really no way for an outsider to interfere. In the afternoon, we completed Huixing's discharge procedures. I went home, took a shower, and slept the entire afternoon in bed, until the phone rang. Lin Shiyuan, can you come out for a moment? There's something I need to ask you. I glanced at the number on the screen. It's Huisun. No idea how he got my number. What is it? What exactly happened to Huixing last night? Go ask her yourself. She hung up on me. That proves she doesn't want to tell you, but I have to know. What's it to me if you want to know or not? I'm outside the Ji family's courtyard. If you're not out in 5 minutes, I'm coming in to get you. He's really out of his mind, and I mean seriously unhinged. 5 minutes later, with a cold expression, I walked out of the courtyard and, sure enough, saw Huisun standing by the roadside. His expression was grave. Last night, did anything happen to Huixing? I told him bluntly, no, last night, Huiyin likely drugged her own tea, intending to have someone assault her and film it, but Ji Dongye and I arrived just in time and saved her. The man your sister hired is the same yellow hair from 7 years ago. Your family's lawyers had him sent to prison for 2 years back then, thanks to your sister. He's probably looking at another 2-year stint. After hearing this, Huisun fell silent for a long time. After a long pause, he finally spoke slowly. How is Huixing doing now? She's doing well, but she wants nothing more to do with the Hua family for the rest of her life. Please, for her sake, just leave her alone. You should consider yourself lucky you were never adopted into our family, Huisun said abruptly. I gave a faint, wry smile. Yeah, I'm actually quite relieved. Lin Shiyuan, I have one more question. Where did you get my phone number last night? I was taken aback for a moment. I never expected him to come out with a question like that, so I blurted out a reply. Huixing told me about it before. Is there a problem? Huisun stared straight at me, his gaze so sharp it felt like it could pierce right through me. You're lying. Why would you lie? I just changed this phone number a week ago. Huixing has no idea. Not just Huixing, but Huiyin. Even my parents don't know it yet. A cold sweat broke out on my back. That's right, in my past life. Huisun did change his phone number once. I think his phone was stolen when he went abroad, fearing his old number, linked to too many platforms, could be misused. He changed it and re-registered it with all his social media and bank accounts. Of all times, it had to be now. What an unfortunate coincidence. Tell me, how did you get my new number? Huisun was slowly closing in on me. I took a step back, trying to appear calm. What's so strange about me knowing your number? You know mine too. And I don't remember ever giving it to you. I asked Driver Wu about it this morning. He told me. Damn, I don't want to discuss this with him anymore. If there's nothing else, I'm going to head back. Huisun suddenly grabbed my wrist, his gaze dark and his expression inscrutable. Lin Shiyuan, what exactly are you hiding from me? Why do I get the feeling you were never meant to live with the Ji family? That you were never meant to be adopted by them? A jolt shot through me. Could it be that Huisun also remembers his past life? No way, let go of me. Why do you hate me? What is it about me that you find so repulsive? You've looked at me like I'm trash our whole lives. Huisun, let me go. Do you hear me? Do you like Ji Dongye? What does he have that I don't? What exactly are you two, siblings or lovers? Have you lost your mind? So, you'd rather be adopted by the Ji family than the Hua family? Is that it? Why, what's wrong with the name Hua Shiyuan? Upon hearing the name Hua Shiyuan, it felt like a bucket of ice water had been thrown in my face. A chill ran through my entire body. Hua Shiyuan, Hua Shiyuan. Huisun stared blankly at my face, muttering to himself. My body began to tremble. The very name Hua Shiyuan was like a nightmare. I thought I had left that nightmare far behind, yet now, in this moment, it feels as if I'm being dragged back into that abyss, just as Huisun's hand was about to touch my cheek. Someone suddenly rushed over and grabbed him by the collar. A dull thud followed. Huisun fell to the ground. It was Ji Dongye. I hadn't even processed it yet. Huisun scrambled to his feet and threw a punch right back at Ji Dongye's face. The two of them started brawling. Every punch landed with a sickening thud. Each blow was more brutal than the last. Soon, their faces were a bloody mess. I finally snapped out of it and rushed in, desperately trying to pull them apart. Ji Dongye, who had always been gentle and humble in front of me, now had eyes as fierce as a leopard's. I'm warning you, Huisun, stay away from my family, stay away from Yuan Yuan. Huisun let out a disdainful snort, clearly dismissing his words. Who the hell do you think you are? Why should I listen to you? As long as she doesn't bear the Hua name in this lifetime, you have no right to control her life. My mind went blank with a sudden buzz. I snapped my head toward Ji Dongye. He was glaring fixedly at Hua Sun, his brow etched with resentment and resolve. Listen here, Hua. If you dare interfere in Yuan Yuan's life one more time, I swear I will make you pay. 37. Back home. Aunt Ji was startled to see Ji Dongye with bruises on his face. What happened here? Did you get into a fight? No, I just fell. Auntie Ji looked utterly speechless. You think I'd believe that? You're a grown man picking fights now. Your rebellious phase is a little late, don't you think? Yuan, could you bring me the first aid kit, please? Yuan. I looked up, dazed and completely out of it. Auntie Ji, were you calling me? What's wrong? You look so pale. Are you feeling unwell? After snapping back to reality, I shook my head. It's nothing, Auntie Ji. I'll help him apply the medicine. Weren't you about to head out? Don't worry. Oh, alright then. Thanks for your trouble. I have an appointment with Mrs. Lee to discuss some matters, and I'm going to be late if I don't hurry. The study. I opened the first aid kit and took out some cotton swabs and ointment. Then, out of the blue, I spoke. Ji Dongye, when did you get back? Wincing in pain with a sharp hiss, the other person replied. Just now. Why are you with Hua Sun? He's bad news. You should stay away from him. What I meant was, when did you remember your past life? Ji Dongye stared at me, his face blank and dazed. The surroundings fell into a deep silence. The air seemed to freeze. He stammered as he asked me, when did you get back? The day the Hua family came to the orphanage. That's why they didn't end up adopting me. Damn, it was the first time Ji Dongye had ever sworn in front of me. He said he came back around that time, too. That's why he went straight to the orphanage and found out the Hua family hadn't adopted me. He was over the moon and immediately brought me back to the Ji family. So, we were both reborn, living under the same roof in the Ji family all these years, yet neither of us had a clue. I have to say, when it comes to acting, those two are truly a match made in heaven. If I could win an Oscar for Best Actress, then Ji Dongye would absolutely snag Best Actor. Have you never wondered why I was never adopted by the Hua family in this lifetime? Didn't I ask you about this when I was little? You said you wet your pants at the orphanage that day. With Hua Sun's personality, it's no surprise he'd look down on you for that and choose to adopt another girl instead. Alright, that does make sense. And what about you? Ji Dongye asked me. Did you never question it when I brought you back to the Ji family? Why would I question it, in our past life? The first time we met, you said you wanted me to come to your home to be your sister. So in this life, when you saw me at the orphanage and brought me back, it's only natural, isn't it, Ji Dongye? Everything was such a strange coincidence. In my past life, on the day I moved out of the Hua family's house, was it you who told Uncle Wu to give me 50,000 yuan? Ji Dongye rubbed his nose, acknowledging it. You're not going to marry Hua Sun again this time, are you? I'm not crazy. Why on earth would I marry him? He breathed a sigh of relief, a genuine smile spreading across his face. That's a relief. I never would have guessed that Ji Dongye was also a reincarnator. I felt as if I had finally found my own kind. Another question just occurred to me. I was reborn because I died in a car accident in my past life. What about Ji Dongye? Don't tell me. After hearing my question, Ji Dongye said that in his previous life, after learning of my death, he drifted through his days in a daze, drowning his sorrows in drink. One day, he drank himself into a stupor. When he woke up, he found he had returned to his childhood. At first, he thought it was all just a dream. But the moment he pestered his parents into taking him to the orphanage and saw me, his heart began to pound wildly. He knew this was no dream. He had been reborn in my childhood. He believed this was a second chance from the heavens. So he took me back to the Ji family without a moment's hesitation. After hearing Ji Dongye's words, I remained silent for a long time. I never imagined that my death in our past life had such a profound impact on him. I voiced the question that had been buried in my heart for so long. Ji Dongye, in our past life, were we close? His eyes widened. We grew up together. How could we not be close? In my past life, Ji Dongye was merely Hua Sun's classmate and a neighbor from the same complex to me. But in his eyes, I was his childhood sweetheart, the one he grew up with. No wonder he offered to fund my studies in the UK. Even after I turned him down, he flew all the way back just to try and persuade me. A long time ago, I used to think Ji Dongye wasn't the pure love type. Unbelievable. He really is, isn't he? 38. After learning that Ji Dongye was also a reincarnator, I'm actually quite happy. I used to feel a bit like an outsider in this world, but not anymore. I found my people now. 2 days later, Huixing came to the Ji family's home and shared some wonderful news with us. She had already met her fiancé's parents at the Liu household. Next month, she and Liu Xingxin will be getting engaged. Huixing hopes that Uncle Ji and Auntie Ji can attend her engagement party that day, representing her own family. On top of that, Huixing also invited the director of the orphanage, whom she affectionately called Mom. Aunt Ji was absolutely delighted. She promptly gifted Huixing a villa property as a dowry. Huixing was rather embarrassed and quickly clarified that wasn't what she meant. You might not have meant it that way, but that's exactly what I mean. After all these years, Auntie Ji has long considered you as half a daughter. What's wrong with a mother giving her daughter a property as a wedding gift? Take it, and don't you argue. Huixing's eyes welled up with tears as she hugged Auntie Ji, her vision blurry. She said that ever since she was 7, every time Huiying kicked her out of the house, she would come here. In her memory, the Ji family was her safe haven. In truth, she had long considered the Ji family her own home. She regarded Auntie Ji and Uncle Ji as her own parents. 39. To be honest, I never expected things to go so smoothly for Huixing and Liu Xingxin. I always thought wealthy families were strict about marrying within their own social circle, but it seems like that's not how things work with the elite these days. Does the Hua family know about your engagement? Huiying nodded. I called Mrs. Hua, but I'm not sure if they'll come. I heard Ji Donya and Huasun got into a fight the other day. Is that true? I didn't expect Huiying to bring that up, and I really didn't know how to answer her. I guess so. Yuan. I need you to answer a question honestly. What is it? Does my brother have feelings for you? No, really, of course not. I barely know him. Why on earth would he like me? That's what you'd think. But last time, didn't he ask me to share your WeChat with him? Huasun isn't the type to do something like that for no reason. You're overthinking it. Huixing breathed a sigh of relief. It's best if I am overthinking it. You really shouldn't get involved with Huasun. Just having a sister-in-law like Huiying to deal with would be a living nightmare. Thank you. I've had a lifetime of bad luck already. I don't need another 7 lifetimes worth. Did the Hua family find out about what happened last time? They probably know. Huasun apologized to me and even tried to give me a card, but I sent it back. Consider it my way of repaying the Hua family for raising me all these years. I think they got the message. Huixing seemed to remember something else. I heard Huiying is on a blind date. It's the son of one of my dad's old friends. He just got back from studying abroad not long ago, and the whole family seems quite pleased with him. I thought about it for a moment. This guy must be the one from my past life who was with Huiying for a short while before calling off the engagement. This time, they might actually make it work. After all, this life's Huiying was not the same Huiying from her past life, the one who never went to college, had a child in her teens, and had a kidney removed. Instead, she was the quintessential rich girl, doted on and pampered by the entire Hua family, who attended a British high school and then a British university. 40. Soon enough, the day of Huixing's engagement ceremony arrived. The engagement ceremony was held at the city's only 6-star hotel, a clear indication of the groom's family's commitment to the occasion. Naturally, the entire Ji family was in attendance. To my surprise, the entire Hua family had also come. On second thought, it's not hard to see why. Huixing was utterly disillusioned with the Hua family and wanted to cut ties herself, but the Hua family would certainly never entertain such a notion. Huixing becoming the Liu family's daughter-in-law was already a done deal. Liu Xingxin's family had been doctors for 3 generations, especially Old Master Liu, the founder of the current Renqin Hospital, is someone every influential figure in this city is eager to cozy up to. Precisely because of this, it's highly unlikely the Hua family would willingly sever their connection with Huixing, so, it's really no surprise that the entire family showed up at this engagement party. Huiying was dressed to the nines tonight, in a red strapless gown paired with a white shawl, a diamond necklace, and jade earrings. It was so grand, it almost outshone the female lead, Huixing, just as I expected. The man she was holding on to was the very same one she had dated and later broken off an engagement with in her past life, but this time, the way he looked at her was filled with immense tenderness and adoration. As for Huiying, she clearly wasn't very interested in him. Auntie Ji and Mrs. Hua were exchanging pleasantries off to the side. Mrs. Hua's attention suddenly shifted to me. Oh, this must be your Yuan. Isn't she? What a lovely girl, after 2 lifetimes. This is the first time I've been this close to Madame Hua. All these years, I've been deliberately avoiding her family, so we've rarely had the chance to meet. Madame Hua. I offered a polite but distant greeting. Mrs. Hua looked at me quietly and praised sincerely. Mrs. Gee, you are truly blessed. Yuan is such a well-behaved and sensible child, and so pretty too, Auntie G replied with a beaming smile. Our Yuan really is such a sensible and well-behaved girl. You don't see many young ladies this sweet these days, I don't know why, but seeing your Yuan gives me such a strong sense of déjà vu. If I may be so bold to ask, does Yuan have a boyfriend? Just then, Huixing walked over and called out to me, Shiyuan, the zipper on my dress seems a bit off, could you help me fix it in the lounge? The two of them headed to the lounge. Huixing warned me, be careful, my mom has clearly taken a liking to you. She's probably thinking of setting you up with Huisun, keep your distance, his mother wants to set me up with Huisun. Hearing that, I couldn't help but laugh for some reason. What's so funny? Nothing, I'm serious. Did you think I was joking? Rest assured, even if I were faced with only two choices, to die or to marry Huisun, I would choose death without a second thought. I could never marry your brother. Huixing was startled and instinctively moved to cover my mouth. Ugh. What on earth are you saying? I can't believe you. Could you please stop talking nonsense, brother? What are you doing here? I looked up. I actually saw Huisun, dressed in a sharp suit. His posture was erect, and he exuded an air of refined composure. Yet, his eyes were like pools of frost. He was staring at me with a cold intensity. A voice heavy with contempt came from the side. Lin Shiyuan, you've got some nerve spouting such nonsense. What kind of pipe dream are you having? You think you can marry my brother, a parentless orphan like you? If you don't have a mirror at home, you at least have urine, don't you? Are you out of your mind? Shiyuan has a father, a mother, and a brother, just like you. How is she an orphan? If she's an orphan, then so are you. Huixing didn't coddle her for a second and fired back without hesitation. Huiyin instantly lost it. Huixing, what do you mean by that? Are you cursing our parents? If I'm cursing our parents, then you were just cursing Aunt G and Uncle G. If you can say it, why can't I? You heartless, ungrateful wretch. Who the hell raised you? I have never denied the Hua family's kindness in raising me, but that does not give you the right to make a scene at my engagement party. You, enough. Huisun rebuked sharply. What day is this? Can't the two of you read the room? I also quickly tried to calm Huixing. Stop arguing with her. Huiyin would love nothing more than to ruin your engagement party so she can swoop back in and steal Lu Xingxin. Don't fall for her tricks. Huiyin's face turned ashen the moment she heard me say that. Lin Shiyuan, what are you implying? I meant exactly what I said. If you had the nerve to do it, you shouldn't be afraid of people talking about it. I scoffed coldly. I followed Huixing into the lounge and was about to close the door when Huiyin shoved it open violently. Well, are you all lining up to settle scores with me? It's just an engagement. Look how smug you've all become. Huixing, you got lucky last time, slipping away before I could get those nude photos and videos. Don't count on that kind of luck holding out. Slap, trembling all over. Huixing stepped forward and slapped Huiyin across the face. Well, that did it. She just kicked the hornet's nest. How dare you hit me? Just as Huiyin, her eyes blazing with fury, was about to return the slap, I shoved her away, but I pushed too hard, and she stumbled to the ground. It didn't help that she was wearing 10-centimeter heels today. That was a pretty clumsy fall. Huiyin was absolutely furious. I'm going to take both of you down. I was genuinely a bit scared. Huiyin's tantrum is no laughing matter. I'll be fine, but this is Huixing's engagement party. We need to talk to her. And fast. Huiyin, let's take this outside, okay? Huixing is getting engaged today. We don't want to mess up her makeup. With a vicious look on her face, Huiyin grabbed a fistful of my hair. Well, I had no choice but to fight back. Seeing this, Huixing rushed over and tried to pry Huiyin's hand loose. I hurriedly tried to stop her. Don't come up here. Don't come up here. For heaven's sake, please stay away from both of us. If she scratches your face and draws blood, it'll be a nightmare to put makeup on later. Huixing paid no attention. Seeing that she couldn't pull Huiyin's hand away, she even tried to bite it. Just then, the door to the lounge was pushed open. I was startled. Oh my god, it's mortifying to be seen with three women fighting here. Little did I know, the person who walked in was Ji Dongye. Then the door swung open again. It was Huisun. The two men were momentarily stunned by the sight. Luckily, Ji Dongye reacted quickly. He immediately locked the lounge door and rushed to my side. Pull Huixing away first, I instructed him. Huisun snapped to his senses and rushed over to restrain Huiyin. Let me go. Let me go. I'll tear those two little sluts, those cheap whores, those filthy bitches to pieces. Huiyin kept on screaming curses in a furious rage. What's going on? Ji Dongye asked me. It's a long story. I quickly checked Huixing's makeup and hair. Thank goodness, it's not too messy. Ji Dongye reached out to cup my face. Looking utterly exasperated, you're worried about someone else. Your own chin is bleeding. I touched it. It really was. Huixing looked anxious. Let me see. Is it serious? It's nothing. Just a little blood. You still need to be careful. Don't let it scar. I have scar cream in my bag. I'll go get it. I'll go with you. Seeing that we were all about to leave, Huixing threw another fit. None of you are going anywhere. You think you can just hit someone and walk away? Not a chance. Nobody paid her any attention. 41 evening. What a chaotic day. Finally over. Got home and took a shower. I can't believe how ridiculous this is. I actually got into a fight with Huiyin at Huixing's engagement party. Unbelievable. Someone knocked on the door. I opened the door. It was Ji Dongye, holding a medical kit. What do you want? How's your chin? Let me have a look. No, that's really not necessary. There are bacteria under the fingernails. We don't want this to scar. I had no choice but to sit in the chair and let him examine it. Ji Dongye was busy for quite a while, alternating between using a cotton swab, applying iodine, and then spreading on some ointment. Did I make a complete fool of myself today? What do you mean, about the fight? He shook his head, his voice gentle and doting. Not at all. I think you're quite handsome. If I were a woman, I might fight Huiyin for you too. Really? I turned my head to ask him. I don't want to. They were too close. My cheek brushed against his lips, our noses touched. We could feel each other's breath. I stared blankly at Ji Dongye. He stared blankly back at me. Only, his gaze slowly drifted from my eyes, down to my nose, and then to my lips, feeling a bit awkward. I wanted to take a step back. Before I could finish speaking, my lips were met with a kiss. I was stunned. I just kept staring blankly at Ji Dongye. He seemed to smile, his amber eyes fixed intently on me. What's wrong? And then, he leaned in again, instinctively. I covered his lips with my hand and asked, are you sure we should do this? Ji Dongye kissed my hand, his gaze tender and lingering. Absolutely sure. That was the answer I got. When he kissed me again, I responded to him quite naturally. This is none other than Ji Dongye, the god of pure love. A kiss not taken is a kiss wasted. 42. I've started trying to shift the dynamic between Ji Dongye and me. In my heart, he's different from Hwasun, after all. I never really thought of him as an older brother growing up. I just saw him as a playmate and a close friend. Now, our relationship is shifting from close friends to romantic partners. I'm also trying to get used to holding his hand, cuddling, or even kissing. It's bound to feel a bit awkward at first, but Ji Dongye made the transition seamlessly. In the morning, the two of them went to work together. The moment we got in the car, he would naturally take my hand. Lunch. He would book a private room in advance, and all the dishes would be chosen according to my taste. He also gave me an unlimited supplementary credit card. Living under the same roof, he would come to my room every night to say goodnight. Just a week into our relationship, he asked me when I was going to tell my family about us. I was filled with anxiety. Would Auntie Ji kick me out? Ji Dongye, however, was quite optimistic. Then let's move out together. Maybe we should wait a little longer. I never expected Hwasun to be the first one to find out about our relationship. That evening, I was heading home with Ji Dongye after the movie. The car was parked outside the yard. The mood was just right. I made some offhand remark, and Ji Dongye let out a soft laugh. Then, a hand reached out to cradle my face. He gazed at me just like that, his eyes holding a galaxy of stars. The next instant, the two of them drew closer. As if by nature, just as we were about to kiss, a sharp car horn blared. It startled us both. Through the car window, I saw Hwasun sitting in the vehicle opposite. His expression was icy, his gaze sharp and piercing. He just stared fixedly at me and Ji Dongye. Anyone who didn't know better would have thought he'd caught me in the act. Psycho. I couldn't help but make a sarcastic remark. Ji Dongye gave him a cool, fleeting glance before driving the car into the courtyard. 43. Huixing had gotten engaged not long ago. Word is out again from the Hua family that Huiyin is getting engaged. I heard it's the groom's side that's pushing to settle things early. TSK, people really are pragmatic, aren't they? Huiyin finally got what she had longed for in her past life. But just a few days after I had that thought, another bombshell dropped. Huiyin's engagement was called off. I was quite puzzled at first. Why was she being jilted again? It wasn't until Huixing sent me a video. I had barely opened it for 2 seconds before I was so startled I closed it. Are you out of your mind? What did you send me? And you call yourself a college student? Aren't you afraid of getting in trouble for sending stuff like that? A moment later, Huixing sent me a message. This is the reason Huiyin's engagement was called off. I was utterly shocked. Then, I clicked to open it. The video wasn't even blurred or censored, the clarity was shocking, the content was brazen, and the actions were wild. It was practically no different from a pornographic film. I knew Huayin had a wild side in private, but I never imagined it was this extreme. Hua Xing said that the day before the engagement, Huayin and one of her fiancé's friends hit it off at a villa. In the heat of the moment, they ended up hooking up, but the guy filmed an intimate video and sent it to a friend to show off. That guy had no honor, though. He immediately forwarded it to another WeChat group chat with his friends. It's gone viral in all the local WeChat groups. The most shocking part is that the villa where they were playing cards was actually the marital home the groom's family had specially prepared for the couple. After the incident, the groom's parents were absolutely furious. They immediately sent the video to Mr. and Mrs. Hua without a moment's delay. She then called off the engagement and blocked the entire Hua family. Mr. Hua, confused about what was happening, clicked on the video. He was so enraged on the spot that he had a heart attack and was rushed to the hospital by ambulance. It said that Mrs. Hua also fainted from sheer anger after watching the video. No wonder, Mr. and Mrs. Hua had lived their entire lives as respectable people. They thought that with their children grown, it was nearly time for them to step back and enjoy their golden years. Little did they expect that Huayin would land them in such a massive scandal, utterly humiliating them and tarnishing their reputation. It's enough to drive anyone mad. At this moment, I can't help but admire Hua Xing's foresight. The best way to get back at someone is to indulge their flaws. With a personality like Huayin's, she's bound to cause a major disaster sooner or later, without anyone else needing to lift a finger. Looking back now, she was spot on, a real prophet. After the scandal broke, Huayin vanished. No one could find her. In a situation like that, anyone would probably lie low. Hua Xing had previously declared her ties to the Hua family severed, but with both of her parents hospitalized in quick succession, she couldn't just turn a blind eye. Fortunately, the hospital where her parents were admitted was the same one where she was currently doing her clinical rotation, making it much easier for her to look after them. 44. Hua Xing had been running herself ragged at the hospital these past few days. Aunt Ji, worried she might be pushing herself too hard, had Sister Zhang prepare some chicken soup. Since I was off work with nothing better to do, I volunteered to take it over to her. Ji Donya stood up and smoothly went to fetch the car keys. I'll go with you. I was fine with it, really. Sister Zhang covered her mouth and teased. Young Master Donya is becoming more and more like Yuan's personal attendant. What a devoted big brother. Around the clock, Aunt Ji shot a glance at Ji Donya and suddenly chimed in with a sigh. You're right about that. He's never shown that kind of patience with his own parents. My heart skipped a beat. Oh no, don't tell me I've been found out. After getting in the car, bro, couldn't you have come up with a better excuse? You could have said you were going to play ball or even cards. They're going to see right through this. Ji Donya looked at me with a deeply resentful expression. So when do I get to have an official title? I patted his fluffy head, just like petting a dog. Just wait a little longer. When the timing, conditions, and people are all just right, then we'll make the announcement. When I arrived at the hospital and was about to give the chicken soup to Hua Xing, I saw her hang up the phone with a grave expression. Did something happen? What's wrong? I asked her. Hua Sun was in a car accident, Hua Xing said, his voice low and steady. I was stunned for a moment. When did it happen? Tonight. Is it serious? We don't know yet. The ambulance is on its way. Hua Xing said that since the scandal broke, there has been no word from Huayin. This evening, Hua Sun learned her current address from a friend and decided to drive over to bring her back. He found her when he got there. However, Huayin flatly refused to return. After regaining consciousness in the hospital, Hua's father was diagnosed by doctors with a moderate stroke and is now bedridden with paralysis. After her husband's stroke, Mrs. Hua barely slept for a week, her eyes swollen from crying. Yet the one who caused this tragedy showed no remorse and made no effort to take responsibility for caring for their parents. Instead, they stubbornly refused to face reality. Hiding away outside, furious, Hua Sun dragged Huayin into the car, determined to bring her back. Ignoring the fact that Hua Sun was driving, Huayin frantically grabbed and pulled at the steering wheel. This caused the vehicle to lose control and crash into a roadside bollard. At the moment of the crash, concerned for his sister's life, Hua Sun deliberately turned the steering wheel toward himself. This resulted in him sustaining severe injuries and falling unconscious. However, Huayin in the passenger seat was largely unharmed. Likely out of fear that Hua Sun would force her to return, she actually abandoned her own brother, who was severely injured and unconscious. and ran off alone. It wasn't until half an hour later that a passing vehicle noticed something was wrong and called the police. After hearing Hua Xing's words, I fell into a long silence. Who would have thought Hua Ying could be so heartless? Hua Sun is her own brother. To abandon her own brother in his hour of need, is she even human? Hua Xing let out a long sigh. I always knew Hua Yin's temperament would land her in trouble one day, but I never imagined it would be on this scale. If anything happens to Hua Sun, the Hua family will truly be finished. 45. 2 more days passed, and I went to deliver a meal to Hua Xing again. I was surprised to see Hua's mother in the hospital corridor. At first glance, I genuinely didn't recognize her. She's only in her 40s. Not even 50 yet, her hair had turned completely white. At Hua Xing's engagement party not long ago, she was still so youthful and elegant. Hua Xing said that ever since Hua Sun got into the car accident and was admitted to the ICU, Mrs. Hua's hair turned white overnight, and for days she hasn't been able to eat or drink a thing. In that moment, everything changed. I could only sigh in resignation, at a complete loss for words. Hua Xing ladled the soup I had brought into a small bowl, likely intending to persuade his mother to have a little. To my surprise, when Mother Hua saw me, her eyes suddenly lit up. Yuan, what brings you here? Hua Xing shook his head, a look of helplessness on his face. I don't know if my mom has been under too much stress lately, but she seems a bit unhinged. Sometimes she doesn't even recognize me. Yet she keeps muttering your name. Isn't that strange? I looked at Mrs. Hua. I'm not sure if she's also remembering things from her past life. Hua's mother walked over and looked at me cautiously. Yuan, where have you been? Why are you only coming now? Did you know Hua's son was in a car accident? He's badly hurt and lost a lot of blood. It's all Hua Yin's fault. Why did she have to come back? That wretched girl. I wish I'd never given birth to her. Yuan, go see Hua's son, quickly. Maybe if you go to him, he'll wake up. I thought for a moment. Then gently interrupted her. How could Hua's son have been in a car accident? Wasn't I the one who was supposed to be in the crash? Mrs. Hua's head snapped up. She stared at me, dumbstruck, her face a shifting mask of shock, suspicion, dawning realization, and confusion. Then she began to murmur to herself, that's right, it should have been Yuan in that car accident. My Yuan, my dear Yuan, I'm so sorry. And to my precious grandson and granddaughter, Grandma is so sorry. What am I going to do? My Yuan is gone, just like that. My heart is breaking. If only we hadn't brought Hua Ying back home. If only we hadn't brought her back. Old Mrs. Hua suddenly broke down, tears streaming down her aged face as she wept uncontrollably. Hua Xing was startled. Mom, what's wrong? Yuan, what are you talking about with my mom? I can't understand a word of it. I felt a bit embarrassed. Well, I was just humoring her and talking nonsense. I didn't expect the old lady to go along with it. She might really be a little out of it. 46. I can confirm that Mrs. Hua has indeed begun to recall fragments of her past life. However, her mental state has also become somewhat unstable. This is likely due to the overwhelming number of events that have occurred in the household recently. Whatever, it's none of my business anymore. A little after 10 at night, I had just drifted off to sleep. Suddenly, a frantic knocking erupted at the door. I opened the door and saw it was Mrs. Zhang. She looked panicked. Yuan, you need to go downstairs and take a look, quickly. I was completely baffled. What's going on? You'll see when you go downstairs. I was pulled along by Mrs. Zhang in a flustered hurry. The moment I went downstairs, I saw Hua's son standing in the living room. He was dressed in a hospital gown, his head wrapped in bandages, his face still swollen, with bloodstains on his cuffs and the front of his clothes. It was a truly horrifying sight. No wonder Mrs. Zhang was scared out of her wits. As soon as I came downstairs, Hua's son's gaze immediately snapped to me. His expression was somber, his dark eyes filled with a profound, inescapable sorrow. Yuan, he called my name. The moment he spoke, Hua's son's eyes reddened, his tone laced with unmistakable anguish. Come home with me. Okay, he said. 47. Ji Dongye came down a step behind me. Soon after, Uncle Ji and Aunt Ji were also woken up by the commotion. Seeing Hua's son in this state, they were all utterly flabbergasted. Hua's son, have you lost your mind? If you want to die, don't do it in my house. Go die in your own home, will you? Ji Dongye frowned. Aunt Ji opened her mouth as if to say something, then fell silent. After all, Ji Dongye's words were crude but not unreasonable. In Hua's son's current state, if we don't get him to a hospital soon, he might really, Uncle Ji. Having seen his fair share of big scenes. composed himself after a few seconds and calmly said to me, Yuan, give Huixing a call and let her know what's going on here. I quickly dialed Huixing's number. Yuan, is this important? I'm a bit tied up right now. I don't really have time. Huixing, your brother is here. What did you say? There was a sudden, sharp pause on the other end. Huixin is here. Get the hospital to send someone for him, now. Okay. I'm on my way. The call ended. Huixin was already walking towards me. His face was as pale as paper, and his body looked terribly frail. It was as if he could collapse at any moment, yet, he stubbornly made his way to stand before me. And then, he looked at me with a near desperate, pleading gaze, his voice hoarse as he asked, Yuan, I'm begging you, please come with me. Seeing that Ji Dongya beside me was about to jump up, I spoke first. Let's talk in the study, Uncle Ji, Auntie Ji. The hospital staff are already on their way. There's no need to worry. You should head upstairs and get some rest. Uncle and Auntie Ji could tell I had something to say to Huixin. They nodded, only asking me to keep an eye on his condition. Ji Dongya, you should go back to your room and get to bed early too. Ji Dongya remained motionless, his face a picture of deep resentment. Here we go again with this nonsense. Unbelievable. I had no choice but to pull out a famous quote. I'm gonna count to 3, 1, 2. Though Ji Dongya was clearly reluctant, he left. Looking back over his shoulder with every step, the study, honestly, I had a pretty good idea of what was going on. After meeting Hui's mother the other day, I was somewhat prepared for this situation. Have you remembered? Huixin stared at me, dazed, his shoulders slumped slightly, as if all the strength had been drained from his body. As you can see, Huixin, in this life, I don't bear the Hui name, nor was I raised in the Hui household. I am an adopted daughter of the Ji family. And I have not a single shred of connection to your Hui family, even in my past life, though the Hui family raised me for 12 years. I served as your family's live-in maid for 3 years and ultimately paid with my life. No, wait, I should say, with 3 lives. No matter how great a debt I owed the Hui family, I repaid it in full in my past life. We're square. In this life, let's just leave each other be and stop getting entangled. I stated my boundaries with Huixin in a casual, offhand tone. I just hope he can understand plain English. Don't barge into someone's home uninvited like you did today. Huixin's eyes welled up with tears, his lips trembling. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were pregnant at the time. That's rich. So, if I hadn't been pregnant, it would have been fine for you to abandon me on the highway. If I hadn't been pregnant, it would have been acceptable for you to let Huiying push me down the stairs. If I hadn't been pregnant, it would have been okay for your mother to work me to the bone, making me do 20 hours of chores a day. Is that it? I was wrong. Yuan, terribly wrong. I never should have blamed Huiyin's fate on you. She's rotten to the core. No matter where she grew up, her life was always going to be a lost cause. I remember saying something similar to him in my past life. All it earned me was a furious slap from him. I wonder how that slap in the face moment felt. Huixin, don't you find this utterly ridiculous? In my past life, I pleaded my case over and over. It was your family's nanny who abducted Huiying. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. I never begged you to adopt me. You were the ones who came to the orphanage and brought me back to the Hui family, yet your entire family turned a blind eye and a deaf ear, stubbornly pinning the blame for Huiyin's tragic life on me. While you all walked away scot-free, you subjected me to emotional coldness and hatred. You allowed Huiying to beat and curse me, to torment me, tacitly approving of it all as her outlet for venting her grievances against an unfair fate. You spend every day in anguish and regret, imagining how brilliant and promising Huiyin's life would have been if she had never been abducted. That's precisely why, in this life, I made a point of returning Huiying to the Hui family early, so you could alter the fate of her previous life. But now you're telling me that Huiying is nothing but a rotten seed, that her life is beyond redemption no matter where she was raised. It's utterly absurd. Huixin's expression went blank. His eyes were vacant and distant, as if they had lost their focus. When I was a child, was it you who sent that anonymous message to my father? Yes, so, you were reborn a long time ago, weren't you? Of course, that's precisely why I wasn't adopted by your Hui family. Huixin finally understood. His eyes held not a single glimmer of light as he let out a bitter smile. Yuan, I know I was wrong. Please, can you forgive me? After you left in our last life, I was in such agony I wanted to die. That's when I truly realized my mistake, and how terribly, terribly wrong I was. The ones you should be begging for forgiveness aren't me, but those 2 children. They had a chance to see this world, but you heartlessly snuffed out their lives. You should be asking them if they forgive you. The last trace of color drained from Huixin's already ashen face. he slowly crumpled to the floor, burying his face in his hands. Tears silently seeped through his fingers and dripped onto the floor. I had no mind to watch him wallow in remorse here. I was just terrified he'd drop dead right on the spot. You should leave, your blood is dripping on the floor. I need to have Mrs. Chen come clean this up. Yuan, come back with me, please. If we're together, maybe they'll come back. Huasun's choked voice sent a chill down my spine. How can a person be so utterly shameless and despicable? I wanted to slap him right then and there, but I was afraid I might actually kill him on the spot. Huasun, are you even human? Just think about how you threw me out of the car on the highway in our past life, how you ignored my desperate pleas and tears and just drove off. If you had even a shred of humanity left, you wouldn't dare say something so shameless. I will never, ever forgive you. Get out of my sight right now. The farther you go, the better. Huasun crawled towards me, as if he wanted to beg, just as I was about to lose control and kick him. Huaxing arrived with the medical team. She stared at Huasun, who was always so dignified and haughty, now lying prostrate on the ground in utter despair. Her face was a picture of shock. Yuan, what were you two just talking about? Nothing, just get him out of here. We don't need him dying on the property and driving down the value. I stared coldly at Huasun, looking at him the way one would look at a dying dog. Unfortunately, Huasun didn't die, he pulled through. After a 2-week hospital stay, I was discharged on the same day as Mr. Hua. He came looking for me at the Ji family residence right after leaving the hospital, but I wasn't there. He then started following me around the Ji corporation, but I took a long leave of absence. Huaxing called me. Huasun seems to have lost his mind, asking about you every single day. My mom's acting strange too, constantly asking me where you've gone. Huaxing probably had a lot of questions for me, but sensing my reluctance to talk, she held back and didn't ask. Another 2 weeks passed. Huaxing called me to say his father had passed away. I was genuinely shocked and asked what had happened. It turned out that Huayin, who had been missing for over a month, had returned home. She didn't want to stay in the country any longer and demanded a large sum of money from her parents so she could go abroad for a few years. At that time, the entire Hua family was utterly disappointed in her. How heartless must a person be to ignore their parents when they're hospitalized and to fake their own death to run away when their brother is on the brink of death. Seeing that her family refused to give her money, Huayin chose to break into the safe in the dead of night, intending to sell the gold bars inside for cash. The safe was installed in Mr. Hua's room. Waking in the middle of the night, Mr. Hua discovered his daughter trying to steal his safe. The shock and rage triggered a stroke on the spot. Terrified, Huayin fled the scene once again. Half an hour later, the housekeeper noticed something amiss in the room and hurriedly woke Mrs. Hua to investigate, but before they could even reach the hospital, Mr. Hua was already gone. After hearing Huaxing's words, I couldn't help but feel a pang of melancholy. You have to understand, Mr. Hua was only 50, right in the prime of his life. If he hadn't been dealt those 2 consecutive blows by Huayin, his life was far from over, and the Hua family business might well have reached new heights in the future. Perhaps this was all just fate. 48. A week later, I returned to the Ji residence from a business trip. Huaxing came to see me. She clearly wore an expression of hesitation, as if she had something to say but was holding back. I couldn't help but be amused. What did you want to tell me? Huaxing seemed like he was bursting to talk, and quickly pulled me aside, saying, First, let me be clear, I'm not one for gossip. It's just that the other day, I accidentally overheard my mom talking to Huasun, and I heard something absolutely unbelievable. What is it? I asked with keen interest. From what I overheard, it seems they both have memories of a past life. In that life, it wasn't me who was adopted by the Hua family, it was you. Later, you married Huasun, and his whole family treated you poorly. When she got to this part, my mom just kept crying, sobbing uncontrollably, and wouldn't stop slapping her own face. And then, it seems you were in a car accident, a terrible one. You didn't make it. Honestly, it sent a chill down my spine. I couldn't tell if they were the crazy ones, or if I was. I smiled faintly and gave Huaxing a pat. Everything they said is true. Huaxing was utterly dumbfounded. Her jaw dropped. So why'd you could have fit an egg in it? So, I told her everything about my past life, leaving nothing out. Huaxing fell silent for a full 5 minutes before speaking slowly. So, the little girl the Hua family adopted in the past life really was you, and Huayin didn't return to the family until she was 18, because she dropped out of school at 14, had a child at 16, and had a kidney removed while working away from home at 17. The Hua family pinned all the blame on you. Hua-sun only married you to get revenge. You ultimately died because he abandoned you on the highway, where you were caught in a multi-vehicle pileup. You passed away while pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. Isn't that right? I nodded. That's essentially it. So after being reborn, I didn't choose to be adopted by the Hua family, they adopted you instead. To set things right in this life, I even sent Huayin to the Hua family ahead of time, but I never imagined she would treat you so cruelly. That's why I discussed with Ji Dongya whether we could bring you to the Ji family as well. Ji Dongya agreed without a moment's hesitation. As you know, what happened next was that the Hua family refused. Hua Xing wiped away her tears, trying to compose herself, yet the tears only fell faster. Her eyes welled up, her voice choked with emotion. You silly girl, why did you never tell me any of this? I hadn't expected to make Hua Xing cry. I quickly grabbed the tissue box and handed it to her. Why would I bring this up out of the blue? And even if I did, you wouldn't believe me anyway. Hua Xing's crying grew more intense, tears falling like precious golden beads. Why wouldn't I believe you? I'd believe anything you say. Ever since we were kids, every time Huayin kicked me out. You were the one who searched everywhere for me and coaxed me into coming to the Ji family home. Every time Huayin bullied me, you were the one who jumped in to defend me and fought her. Why would someone like you meet such a tragic end in your past life? This girl is quite the sentimental one. I should never have told her. It's all in the past. To me, it feels like a lifetime ago. Wah, how about I just give Lu Xingsun to you? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Seriously. You're about to get married and you're offering me your fiancé. Does Lu Xingsun know about this? But whenever I think about what you went through in your past life, my heart aches. Yuan, apart from Lu Xingsun, I have nothing better to give you. I was genuinely touched. To Hua Xing, Lu Xingsun was as precious to her as her own eyes. Back when Huayin coveted him, she didn't hesitate for a second, even if it meant burning bridges. She was ready to stand up to the Hua family head-on, and now she actually says she wants to give him to me. Alright, Lu Xingsun, you just keep him for yourself. Don't go getting any strange ideas. Hua Xing held me, sobbing and sniffling. Never mind, I know you don't think much of him anyway. I was going to give him to you, so you could have the best of both worlds. What do you mean, enjoying the company of two women? Aren't you dating Ji Dongya? I looked utterly shocked. Then, I looked guilty. You, how did you know? I saw you two kissing in the car the other day. Oh, God. I held my forehead, utterly mortified. Hua Xing's next words shattered my heart into a million pieces. Aunt Ji saw it too. What? Driver Wu, Sister Zhang, and Driver Chen all saw it. Uncle Ji didn't see it himself, but Aunt Ji told him. I covered my face with my hands. What a mess this is. Why didn't you say something sooner? Aunt Ji said that maybe you two weren't quite ready for others to know you were dating. So she asked us to play along and act like we didn't know. We were supposed to wait until you were ready to tell us yourselves, and then act surprised. So everyone's been overacting like crazy lately, just so we don't look underprepared and totally awkward when you two finally make the big announcement. My scalp was crawling. Stop. I'm already cringing just thinking about it. Hua Xing couldn't help but laugh again. Aunt Ji has instructed all of us to act completely shocked and stunned when you two announce your relationship. Then, we're supposed to gradually transition to looking understanding and finally, offer our heartfelt congratulations. She also said we need to pour our hearts into it, with genuine emotion in our eyes. If everyone performs well, she's doubling the year-end bonus. Aunt Zhang was even discussing with Uncle Wu yesterday about signing up for an acting class together. Hua Xing's moods come and go in a flash, and by now she was already doubled over with laughter. Just as I was about to tell her to tone it down, her phone rang. After finishing the call, Hua Xing looked at me earnestly. It was my mom. She asked me to see if you could meet with her. 49. After what felt like 2 lifetimes, I found myself back at the Hua residence. Mrs. Hua's eyes were red and swollen, as if she had just been crying. Yuan, she approached me cautiously. Her gaze fixed on me the entire time. It seemed she wanted to take my hand. I took a step back, my tone distant and cold. Mrs. Hua, if you have something to say, you can just tell me directly. I hope you won't try to contact me through Hua Xing anymore. This is the first and last time, and I won't be meeting with you privately in the future. Mrs. Hua parted her lips slightly, looking at me in a flustered and helpless manner. Alright, I understand. Yuan. Have you been well all these years? I nodded calmly. I've been doing very well with the Ji family. That's good, Mrs. Hua wiped her tears with her sleeve. forcing a smile that was more pitiful than a sob. Her tone was laced with a fawning, cautious quality. "It's nothing, really. I just wanted to see you. Hu Xing says you're doing very well with the Ji family, that Mrs. Ji dotes on you as if you were her own daughter. You've always been such a good, sensible girl. Hearing how much she loves and cares for you, it truly makes your mother happy. My patience is wearing thin. You wanted to see me, and now you have. If there's nothing else, I'll be on my way." Yuan, Mrs. Hu hastily grabbed my arm and dropped to her knees with a thud, her tears instantly flowing like a river. "Can you ever forgive me for what I did in our past life? I know I was wrong. I'm filled with so much regret. I'm sick with it. I never should have treated you that way. I ruined your life, and I ruined the lives of our 2 children. I'm so full of remorse. Huyin, we never should have let Huyin come back. She destroyed you. She destroyed our whole family in our past life. And in this one, she's the reason your father is dead. Our family could have been so happy, so joyful, so perfectly content. It's all that monster's fault. Why did she have to return? She's ruined our family for 2 lifetimes now. My Yuan, my dear daughter. Just thinking of you these past days has shattered my heart. I'm kowtowing to you. Please forgive your mother, will you? I'm begging you. Please forgive me." With that, Mrs. Hu began to kowtow, her forehead thudding rhythmically against the floor. I felt nothing, only a hollow numbness. I had Hu Xing help her up. "Madam Hu, you raised me for 12 years in my past life. The lives of my mother and my 2 children should be more than enough to repay that debt. Now, I have no connection whatsoever with your Hu family. There's truly no need for you to kneel and beg for my forgiveness like this. I cannot accept it." Madam Hu collapsed to the floor, wailing in utter despair, her grief overwhelming. I was about to leave, having had enough of this place, when I saw Hu Sun coming down the stairs. "Hu Xing, help your mother to her room to rest for a while." Seeing the situation, Hu Xing had no choice but to agree. Hu Sun walked up to me, his lips moving wordlessly for a long moment. "When did you get back? What's it to you?" I turned to leave, but he blocked the doorway. Hu Sun looked at me, his gaze dark, his expression pained and conflicted. Yuan, my head tells me I shouldn't keep bothering you, but my heart, I miss you so much. Tell me, what am I supposed to do, for God's sake? What is this, some kind of soap opera? You should stay as far away from me as possible. The sight of you makes me sick. After all these years, you must know how I feel about you. To me, you're nothing but a plague. If it weren't for Hu Xing, I wouldn't waste a single word on anyone from your family. From now on, if you see me, remember this. Shut your mouth, move your feet, and get the hell away from me." Hu Sun's back visibly slumped, as if something had shattered him in an instant. He grabbed me, his body trembling uncontrollably, his voice broken and bitter. Yuan, really, can't you give me even the slightest chance anymore?" I hadn't spoken yet. Hu Xing had already walked over. "Brother, just let Shi Yuan go. Given what you did in your past life, she's being merciful by not poisoning your entire family after being reborn. Yuan is choosing to let it go for her own peace of mind. Besides, poisoning you all would land her in jail. She's already with Ji Dongya now. How do you expect her to give you a chance? Do you really think you can compare to Ji Dongya? Give me a break. As a brother, you barely scrape a passing grade of 60 in my book, but Ji Dongya, he'd score a perfect 200. He's the most flawless brother in the world. And I won't hear any arguments. If you hadn't forced Shi Yuan to marry you out of revenge in our past life, she might have ended up with Ji Dongya instead. She could have lived a peaceful and happy life. You've already ruined 1 lifetime for Yuan. Don't go wrecking another 2 for her." Hu Sun's face turned deathly pale as he stumbled backward several steps. His eyes were hollow and lifeless. Hu Xing was startled. I'm telling the truth. You have to try and accept it, even if you can't." I gave a cold, mocking smile at the exaggerated reaction from the person across from me. "Hu Sun, in our past life, when I was in my final year of high school and Huyin kicked me out of the Hu family, you rushed back from England a few months later to take me back. That was because you heard the Ji family was planning to adopt me instead, wasn't it? And you proposed to me right after I graduated from university. That was also because you heard Ji Dongya intended to marry me and help me leave the Hu family, wasn't it? That's why you did it." Hu Sun looked at me, his face ashen. "How did you know? Huh? How despicable." I didn't spare him another glance and strode out of the Hu residence. Hu Xing stayed quietly by my side. A long moment passed. She asked me, "Were you and Ji Dongya close in a past life?" Back in high school, the Hu family had planned to send me to study in the UK. After Huyin returned, they no longer wanted to fund me. Ji Dongye was studying in the UK at the time and came back specifically to tell me he could cover my tuition, but I didn't accept. Why not? Probably because I didn't want to owe someone such a huge favor. You're such a fool. If you had agreed back then, your whole life would have turned out differently. Yeah, I was pretty foolish back then. Actually, Ji Dongye was the one who told me about these two things not long ago. In my past life, after Huayin returned, she heard I was having a hard time at the Hua residence. Ji Dongye suggested to Auntie Ji that they take me in, but the Hua family refused, after I graduated from university. The Ji family proposed a marriage alliance with the Hua family, but the Hua family turned it down. From a purely business perspective, an alliance with the Ji family would have been nothing but beneficial for both families. As a businessman, old Mr. Hua would never have refused such an offer. Therefore, the one who refused could only have been Hua's son. After hearing this, Hua Xing's eyes began to well up with tears again. So, Ji Dongye saved you so many times in his past life, only to watch helplessly as you married someone else, and then 3 years later, he received the news of your fatal car accident. Is that right? He must have been utterly heartbroken. You two were so close to being together. I'm sobbing. I never would have guessed Ji Dongye was such a hopeless romantic. No wonder you're not interested in Lu Xingxin. Huh, what does this have to do with Lu Xingxin? Back at the Ji residence, noticing Hua Xing's repeated glances in his direction, Ji Dongye finally sensed that something was off. What are you staring at me for? Oh, nothing. I just think you're really handsome. Are you out of your mind? Hua Xing. Ji Dongye remembered something and took out his wallet. Go on. How much do you want? Hua Xing. Once again. Forget it. Pretend I never said anything. Hua Xing stood up and went outside to call Lu Xingxin. Ji Dongye was acting cute with me. Sweetheart. How about we go out to see a movie tonight? Alright, I've got a plan. In a minute, I'll give your phone a quick ring. When I do, pretend you've left an important file at the office. You need it for a client meeting tomorrow, so you absolutely have to go back and get it tonight. Once you're out, I'll text Liang Zhou and have him call me. We can meet up outside the residential complex. How does that sound? I looked at this naive son of a wealthy family. For a moment, I was at a complete loss for words. Why are you looking at me like that? Is this method no good? Ji Dongye, I need to tell you something. What is it? Seeing that the living room was empty, Ji Dongye sidled over and, out of habit, cupped my face in his hands. Where were you all night? You didn't answer my texts or pick up my calls. Nowhere special, sweetheart. Can I have a kiss? I've been looking for you all evening. With that, Ji Dongye planted a lightning-fast kiss on my cheek. Seeing my utterly bewildered expression, he chuckled softly. Why are you looking at me like that? You're so adorable. Baby, let me give you another kiss. He leaned in close to me again. This time, he pried my lips apart and invaded, conquering territory like a city under siege. It was clear he was gearing up for a full-on French kiss. I hastily pushed him away. Aunt Ji. Now it was Ji Dongye's turn to be utterly bewildered. He glanced sideways. His gaze immediately landed on Auntie Ji and Sister Zhang across from him. Auntie Ji's eyes widened, and she covered her mouth. Her acting was painfully awkward, yet she dutifully performed her part, portraying utter shock and disbelief. Oh my, what are you all doing? Seeing Aunt Ji's performance, Sister Zhang immediately got into character as well. She first took a few steps back, her eyes widening to the size of saucers, before putting on a look of complete devastation. Oh my god, what am I seeing? Young Master Dongye, Yuan, what are you two? To be honest, I was so embarrassed I could have dug a castle with my toes. Ji Dongye forced himself to explain. Mom, don't be so shocked. Yuan and I are together now. Aunt Ji slowly reined in her exaggerated expression, settling into one of mild surprise. What, you're together? Oh, well. Why didn't you say something sooner? Aunt Zhang followed suit, patting her chest as if to calm her still racing heart. Wait, you two are dating, that explains it. Oh my god, you scared me half to death. Ji Dongye, something felt off to him, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. I really want to ask Sister Zhang, where on earth did you learn such over-the-top acting? 50. After going public with our relationship, Ji Dongye decided we should move out together. The Ji family owns a plot of land in the East District. They purchased it years ago. It features a lake and hills. 3 years ago, Ji Dongye hired a construction crew to start building a house. Now, the villa is nearly finished with its interior decoration. Ji Dongye said this would be our future marital home. Are you proposing to me? I've waited for you for what feels like 2 lifetimes. I'm starting to feel old. So we should get married quickly and start enjoying our life together as soon as possible. Huh, how can someone be so shameless? Not long after, Hua Xing told me something. Hua Yin was stabbed in the stomach and had a kidney removed. The guy who stabbed her was the same blonde punk who had previously tried to assault Hua Xing. As it turned out, after the blonde punk was arrested, he was prosecuted by the Ji family's lawyer. The first trial sentenced him to 3 years. The punk was absolutely furious. Both times he went to prison, it was because of Hua Yin, convinced she was deliberately setting him up. He had someone stab Hua Yin, starting over. Hua Yin's fate seemed no different from her previous life. This time, however, Mrs. Hua and Hua Sun had completely washed their hands of her, leaving her to fend for herself out in the world. 51. 3 years later, Hua Xing was finally nearing graduation. With graduation approaching, she found herself with more free time and started coming over to our house every weekend. Xianxian, Qinchin, your auntie is here to see you again. I thought it was odd, but yesterday you said you were their aunt. Is there? Duh, of course there is. You're a PhD. For goodness sake, could you be a bit more precise? One day you call yourself their aunt, the next day you're their auntie. What's the big deal? I want to be Xianxian and Qinchin's aunt and their auntie. Is that not allowed? Unbelievable. In the afternoon, I took the twins back to No. 1 mansion for a visit. The little ones were only 6 months old and were absolutely over the moon to see their grandma. After that, my mother and Nanny Zhang took the babies out for a little stroll and then came back. I had only just gotten back. Mrs. Zhang called out to me in a fluster, Yuan, come quick, look at this. I stepped forward and saw a walnut wood box placed on the tea table. The box was neatly arranged with many gold bars. I counted them. There were 40 in total. Mrs. Zhang, where did these come from? I asked with a furrowed brow. It was given by that Mrs. Hua from building 26. I was just out for a stroll with the madam, pushing the pram, when Mrs. Hua saw Xianxian and Qinchin. She asked the madam if they were her children, and the madam said yes. Then Mrs. Hua suddenly became very strange. She hugged Xianxian and Qinchin, kissing them over and over, tears streaming down her face. She was crying so pitifully, it completely bewildered both me and the madam. Later, when we were about to leave, Mrs. Hua said she wanted to give the children a little welcome gift. The madam told her it wasn't necessary, but she insisted on giving it. She was so determined, it was like she wouldn't let us leave without taking it. Then she went home and brought this peachwood box. I thought it was odd right away. It was far too heavy, so I just put it in the pram. I just took it off the cart and realized it's gold bars. What on earth do I do now? Yuan, do you think Mrs. Hua took the wrong suitcase by mistake? Should we return it to her? She's missing so many gold bars, she might call the police. Mrs. Zhang was an honest woman, and by now she was starting to panic. There's no way Mrs. Hua could have mistaken something so valuable. I thought about it for a moment. No need. She said it's a gift for the baby, we should keep it. There was a sound from outside the courtyard. I looked up. A black G-Class SUV glided smoothly into the garage. I played with the 2 little ones for a bit. Xianxian, Qinchin, Daddy's home. Come on, let's go find Daddy.